The main character was so tired of people that he bought himself a mountain. The marriage fell apart, everything became annoying. And he decided that he needed girls. He decided to isolate himself, so through his mother's relatives he bought one of the two mountains, and halfway up he found a house that looked like a real home, and settled there. But after 3 days the hero felt lonely, so he went to the village of Ray, where a festival was raging. At the local fair he came across colorful chickens, considered them rare, so he immediately took 3. Now he would not be lonely. In addition, he was given food, and the hero went home. A month later, he was called Shohei Sano. He is 25 years old, single, and not looking for either a girlfriend or a wife at all. The young man dreams. It would be wonderful if someone shared such energy with him. The warmer the weather, the more wildly the grass grows. The main task is to remove those weeds that grow so actively. After some time, the boy realizes, no matter how much he mows the grass, it still does not become less. But he has chickens, so the grass of the stogons will not go to waste. Show how he started growing vegetables. If he had done nothing, insects would have eaten all the vegetables. He got so carried away that even the chickens got scared. All 3 chicks have already managed to grow up. They were simply huge. The boy cannot comprehend whether chickens can be so big. Only a month has passed since their hatching. They are already over 50 centimeters tall, and Pochi already has a red comb. It seems that males were displayed at the fair, which were initially not going to be sold. But Tama and Yuma looked just like females. An old man told him, "If you need help, I will help." But the hero refused. They are his dearest companions, and he sincerely hopes that they will walk side by side all their lives. Meeting Pochi, Pochi came across a field snake. She hissed at him, but he did not lose composure and hissed back. Shohei's chickens do not understand many things. He said that the grass is fine now and can be left alone. Pochi repeated his words about not touching it for now. And then Tama and Yuma also picked it up and began to repeat this phrase. Juno had never heard the rooster speak. He swore, and Pochi repeated the same word after him. And then 2 more picked up the same thing. He mentally begged them not to repeat. Suddenly, one of the roosters rushed forward. The boy did not have time to understand what was happening, but it turned out that the bird had caught the viper again. Shohei picked up the creature and carefully placed it in the bottle. And then he praised Thomas, and she happily wagged her tail. The hero thought, vipers usually do not eat chickens. Yuma also rushed somewhere behind the house, and then came out with a viper in her beak. Shohei thought that there were too many vipers near his house. It was dangerous. Yuma also found a viper, so he allowed them to eat it. They pounced with pleasure. The young man felt horror. These chickens betray the vipers. This is how the hero's life flows today. There is a river nearby, so there are no problems with fresh water. 3 years ago, Mr. Shuya lived in this house, the same house where the hero now settled. So when the hero came here, almost everything needed for life was already here. Due to old age, his entire family lives at the foot of the mountain. The hero understood how it looked. Pochi told the others that he allowed them to eat vipers, and then Thomas and Yuma began bringing him snakes as gifts. This lasted for 2 days. The old man said in surprise that chickens eat vipers, and added that it was a waste. He said that there are so many vipers here that people no longer touch them. That man added that it is probably because the local house is vacant. If I survive next time, he will buy them to make a snake shake. At first, Shohei wanted to refuse. He was too scared. But the old man replied that he would teach him everything. He is stunned that chickens eat vipers. He advised eating them for no more than 3 days. There should be no problems. He was here a week ago. The hero is going to the old man again. He saw one of the roosters and noticed how big he had grown. Yuma came together with the hero. The hero and the old man discussed the possibility of selling the eggs of this female. Then the hero said that he came to offer vipers, not eggs. The young man placed 2 bottles with vipers on the table. The grandfather was surprised that he caught 2 vipers. Then he promised that he would pay him for them later. The boy, of course, did not like it. The old man's wife greeted the young man and offered him something to eat. He sincerely thanked her. The woman asked him to be careful. He has so many vipers. He replied that everything was fine for now, but it could be that they nest somewhere near his house. The woman said she has a friend who can ask him to exterminate them in his yard. Shohei refused, explained that his chickens catch them perfectly, and everyone immediately looked at Yuma. The boy told her that that day she caught a viper. The woman offered the rooster vegetables, and she gladly agreed. Shohei suddenly thought that this animal definitely understands what is being said to it. The old man gave the boy 400 yen and a few more vegetables. The hero thanked him. The woman suggested the boy take with him the canned goods and drinks left after the party. He thanked her. Her face dimmed with sadness, and she said that if she told all this to her sons, they would only get angry. The boy was surprised by this. When evening falls, he returns home. Meat can only be bought at the store in the village at the foot of the mountain. The boy asks Yuma if she has eaten enough. She confirms that she has. Shohei came to the store. There were children standing there, choosing something, and suddenly they noticed the hero and the chicken. The boys began talking about how huge this chicken was. The boy agreed with them, and the girl asked if it laid eggs. The hero replied that she was about a month old. Still too early for that. But the boy did not believe him and shouted that he was lying because the chicken was huge. Yuma approached and hid behind that man. The locals are good-natured, but he was sure that chickens understand language. The seller greeted the boy and said that he was the second today to come down from the mountain. Shohei was surprised by the words that he was the second from the mountain. Did he really have a neighbor? The young man did not even suspect that someone lived on the neighboring mountain. He thought to approach and greet. Returning home, he called the old man. The man asked his wife if Shohei had a neighbor, and she took the phone from his hands. She explained that he actually had two neighbors. A girl from the east moved about 2 years ago, and the one in the west about 3 years ago. There is a sign on the mountain. Caution, wild animals. It is better for him to meet them in the village. The boy thought it was better not to go to them without an invitation. He asked, "Don't they put such signs on every mountain?" She herself had not seen them yet, but wild boars and bears live here. They did not know exactly which wild animal he might encounter there. Her hero understood. Bears are cruel and fiercely dangerous animals, but many do not realize this because they only see them in zoos. The hero remembered reading terrifying stories about bear attacks in Hokkaido, and it is really frightening. Probably he should have gotten a hunting license before moving here. Otherwise, he can't even hunt with traps, let alone shoot. Some of the locals have permits, but most are old men who gave up hunting long ago. Shokai understands. If a bear appears, he will have to act. The animal surrounded the boy. He gently petted them on the head and praised them, then added that if there were bears here, they would have to be much more careful. He suggested Pochi and Tommy go wash up, but they refused. That is why Yuma went into the bath with him, and sitting in the hot water, the young man feels that he also needs to somehow fight the pests. If he gets hurt later, he will have huge problems, because without him, they cannot live in the mountains. Yuma remembered how as a child she sat in the bath, and the rubber duck was as big as her. And now this duck is many times bigger. Then she raised her eyes to the night sky. The hero shouted, "What is this?" He was very surprised. His animals brought him a wild boar carcass. He was sure they just went to play in the morning, but it turned out they went hunting. The boy suddenly realized that he could not manage without his uncle's help, and immediately dialed his number. Arriving and seeing Boris's corpse, he asked how he killed him. The hero explained that it was the chickens that took his life. The old man could not understand how such a thing could happen at all. A young man said that when he returned home after the morning round, they had already dragged him inside. Incredible. The chickens were pleased with themselves. The man looked at the boy and asked what he intended to do with the boar, and the boy replied that if possible he wanted to eat it. But what to do with the stump, he did not know at all. The old man said he would find someone, and at that very moment the man noticed something in the bushes. The old man says the meat needs to be cooled, and that will take time. Asks the boy to come tomorrow, because nothing can be done about it now. Shohei apologizes for the inconvenience and for making him work again. He replied that there was nothing to worry about, but the hole was so huge that it was stunning. He returned to the chickens and said that they had killed him, so they had the right to eat him. Today he would take him home, and tomorrow bring him back already cooked. They agreed, and Shohei thanked the man and said he was very grateful. The uncle advised them not to stop at just the victory over the wild boars. It is not worth chasing the small ones. He said to look only for adult boars. They are dangerous to people. Adult pigs give birth to about 4 piglets. While they are raising them, there are no new ones. But as soon as those grow up, new ones immediately appear, so they reproduce quickly. They can destroy our crops. Fences need to be put up, but that requires money. Scarecrow baits can be set up, but they hardly work, so it is better to get rid of them relying on the chickens. It was time for the man to leave. He and Shohei loaded the carcass into the car. Here the young man hears the old man's joyful cries. Yuma was coming to him with a viper in her teeth. He understood that it was for him. Then he said that he would pay him for everything tomorrow evening. Shu almost got indignant. He had already helped with the boar, but the other replied that these were completely different matters, and the boy understood, saying that he would come tomorrow evening. The hero was interested in what it was like to live in the village. The people here were so kind and sensitive. He gently stroked Yuma and thanked her. The hero thought about how to make Abe be born. The hen picked up this idea. The boy hopes that the neighbors will also be there. He wants to meet them. Someone woke the boy up, told him to wake up. He reluctantly got up, opened the door, and saw with surprise. It was Tama. The hens entered the boy's house and began wandering around it. Xiao explained to them that that evening he was only going to visit his uncle. But his hens were very greedy. In the evening, everyone gathered around one table. The hero greeted everyone and thanked them for everything, and the old man handed him a beer and said that he was late. The aunt asked if this was the same man who caught the boar. Another woman remarked that the man was very reliable. Shohei scratched his head and awkwardly said that all this was thanks to the help of others. The old man shouted that they had almost not helped him at all. Looking at the meat that was frying, the boy thought that he should have come earlier and helped. He apologized to the uncle's wife for not being able to help. She replied that it was all right. They decided to start earlier, and she hoped he would like it. Then she turned her gaze to Pochi, Tama, and Yuma, and then she offered them meat, and they gladly agreed. The boy thanked the woman. She smiled and said that she should be grateful to him. She did not even remember the last time she ate wild boar meat. Someone entered and apologized for being late. The young man turned around to see who it was. He was a girl named Mia. Everyone greeted her. Shohei noticed the creature lying at her feet. They greeted Mia. She looked away. The heroine was interested in what lay at her feet. The girl apologized for not coming to help. The woman replied that it was all right. It is not easy to descend from the mountains, and the hero agreed with her. Auntie introduced Mia to her neighbor from the west. They greeted each other warmly. The girl shyly looked away. The woman noticed that they both had strange pets. Shohei had huge chickens, and Mia had a large lizard. Upon learning that the boy had chickens, the girl advised not to stand nearby. His eyes suddenly widened with surprise. A huge lizard appeared behind the girl. He froze in shock. This was no ordinary lizard. It was a monitor lizard, or maybe even a real dragon. The young man asked if he could eat his chickens, and she shrugged and said she couldn't answer for him. The old man called the boy to the table, and he told the girl that they would talk more later. The man told the stranger that Shohei had brought them the boar he was just cutting up, and the hero thanked him. He replied that sometimes it was useful to work so that skills wouldn't dull. The man was surprised that it was the chickens that brought down the boar. That boy had incredible chickens. They even catch vipers. The hero said that those chickens were terribly bloodthirsty. It seemed you could rely on them if they caught some boring guy, and that boy could get in touch with that man. And also, thanks to those chickens, they drank snake sake every day. Another villager said that if the boy caught vipers, he would buy them from him for 3,000 yen each, and the uncle was outraged. He said that if he were offered such a sum, he wouldn't sell him anything else. The woman screamed that the meat was already heated. Negotiations between the chicken and the monitor lizard. Mia's favorite was eating meat. Pochi approached him, and the monitor lizard was watching the piece attentively. He suddenly realized that the chickens had caught a boar and shook his head. It was morning. The boy was sleeping in the room together with other men. He got out of bed. Yawning, he left the room and saw the girls bustling in the kitchen. Among them was Mia. He smiled, greeted them, and asked to drink some water. They nodded their heads to him. The uncle's wife asked if they had already met. The young man replied that he had only heard how she was addressed. The girl apologized and said that her name was Miyako Katsuragi, and that she also lived in the mountains. The young man clarified that the girl lived in the east. She pondered. He said that he had moved here only a month ago, so he didn't really know anything. He wouldn't mind if she gave him some advice. The hero was given water, and he asked where his chickens were. The woman replied that she had fed them vegetables, and that they were now in the garden. The boy thanked her and said he would go see them, and Mia decided to go with him. They went out into the yard. The lizard was dozing under the tree, and the chickens were pecking at the vegetables. The hero called his chickens, and Thomas approached him. He crouched down and ran his hand over his head. He noticed that the animals had grown again, because they ate wild boar meat, but even so, could they have grown that much in one day? Mia noticed this and asked the boy if it was normal for them to have such a tail. He agreed with her and added that it was clearly not a chicken tail, but rather a reptilian one. The girl stated that birds are descendants of dinosaurs. Then Shohei noticed her monitor lizard. She replied that its name was Tatsuki. It was very large for a lizard, and she bought it at one of the market stalls. Sho confessed that he bought his chickens there as well. The girl thought it was strange. He agreed, and they exchanged glances. Then they smiled, and the hero noticed that her lizard looked more like a dragon. Maybe it is a real dragon. Mia smiled and said that she had always dreamed of having a dragon, and at that moment she realized that Tatsuki was her dragon. Then she said that his chickens are cockatrices. Shu pondered her words. Kurliskis are giant, chicken-like monsters, and he heard that they can turn people to stone. Mia apologized for saying that. She just adores fantasy. He replied that it's true. They remind me a lot of them. Their tails also get longer every day. Shu asked in surprise what he eats from her. She turned away and answered that he eats everything that comes into his mouth. That's why it's strange that he doesn't even touch his chickens. For him, they are just a snack. He even devours large predatory birds. The young man asked about vipers. Is it true that there are so many around her house? Mia replied that there used to be, but he ate almost all of them, and the dragon scares that boy. Shohei asked about boars. She answered that she once saw one, but as soon as Tatsuki noticed it, it immediately ran away. There were also many deer, which he often caught and ate. The girl turned back to the animal and asked him to catch a deer next time, so they could share it with the neighbors, while the young man pondered. What does it mean if his chickens were not the only ones who understand human language? Sho asked the old man who lived at the very west of the mountain, and he replied that a man should live there, but a girl with dark hair always comes. The hero thought he wouldn't want to see the couple, but he couldn't even imagine how soon he would see her. A young man walks along the path and thinks that May will come soon. In the mountains, he completely lost track of time, but the local cherry trees usually bloom in May. Last year, he had not yet admired the cherry blossoms. He invited Yuma to go with him to admire the cherry blossoms. They settled down and savored onigiri. The little hen was so happy that she smiled and said, "Sakura." The hero could not understand why she said that. Does she really think that this food is sakura? He pointed to the tree and said that Yuma should look at the cherry blossoms. This is what admiring sakura is. She shook her head, stepped forward, and spread her wings, then shouted, "Sakura!" Gathering himself, the young man says that next year, at the height of the season, they will go to see it and take Pochi and Tama with them. Pochi and Tama stand guard near the house, and suddenly Pochi notices something in the bushes. And in a moment, he rushed into attack and grabbed Viper. Sitting at the table, the hero whispered that the Golden Week starts tomorrow. He no longer goes to work and has completely lost track of time. If you think about it, the aunt said that during the holidays many people come to rest, so there should be more people. And some tourists set up camps in the mountains without permission and do not clean up after themselves, as well as cut bamboo and collect wild vegetables without permission. On his mountain stands a wire fence, but he would not be surprised at all if someone climbed over it. That is why he hung a bunch of different signs. The chickens have already caught all the vipers. The boars almost do not appear, and the hero prefers not to see bears. Tomorrow the hero decided to inspect the foot of the mountain, and the chickens immediately followed him. It's time to go to bed. The chickens sensed something and began to circle around the door. The boy glanced at them and did not understand what they wanted. Could it be that they really want to go outside, since they had never asked to go so late before? He said he would take a lantern and ask them to wait a little. He sharply opened the door. Pochi and Yuma rushed forward. Tama pecked Shohei, as if urging, "Run!" The young man rushed after his chickens. The hero ran and thought that nothing could be seen in the darkness, so he needed to stop near the bushes, but the boy just looked surprised. Someone ordered Rin to stop. "These are people." Shohei asked if anyone was here. It was a man. He covered his face with his hand. The lantern shone too brightly. Pochi descended from the mountain. The hero asked him what had happened. The man stood up and tensely asked if that boy was really from Mount Sava. Shore replied that he was the master of Mount Sava, and the stranger apologized for the trouble and introduced himself as Ikawa. He was from the neighboring mountain. The hero thought that he was from the western mountain. The young man was glad to meet and apologized for not coming earlier, and he smiled and said it was all right. It was a bit difficult to go back and forth in the mountains. Shohei asked why this man wanted to be here so late. Kawa began to hesitate and could not find words, and the boy decided to look over his shoulder, and was surprised. Behind the back of the master of the western mountain, a girl appeared. Our face was not visible. The boy got scared and fell. Ikawa agreed, she was really scary. Sho cannot understand why no one warned him that ghosts wander in the mountains. The chickens rushed forward to protect their master. The man apologized for scaring him. He called Ran and opened one of her eyes. The hero quietly wonders, how is it? A boy and a girl in the middle of the night on the neighboring mountain. He thought they were just arguing. The main hero decided to leave because nothing happened here. Akava apologized again for scaring him and asked if he would be here tomorrow. The boy confirmed. The master of the western mountains said he would visit that boy tomorrow during the day and said goodbye. The couple moved deeper into the forest. Shohei still does not understand why he did not return home on the way and why he went through the forest. The hero wonders what it was all about. The chickens repeat his question. Returning home, Sho lay down on the bed and said he was tired. The chickens repeated after him. He thinks that the chickens pecked him, insects bit him, and he collected all the branches on the way. He needs to sleep, and Ikawa will come tomorrow. The young man noticed his beauty. The main hero cleans up after Taurus, who came to rest. But the incident with the neighbor Ikawa from yesterday does not stop echoing in his mind. He returns to Yuma and asks if it is true that they see well at night. She approached him and lightly pecked his leg, and the young man thought that the females are not so noisy. This sign means that they see in the dark. He did not stop collecting garbage. He was outraged by the amount of this garbage. Yuma agreed with him. The hero thinks that it is fashionable not to be afraid that someone will sneak up at night because he has chickens. Rin and Ikawa set off to visit the main hero. The boy got out of the car and apologized for being late. Rin continued to sit in the car, and Shohei noticed this. He replied that she is very shy and asked the neighbor not to worry. The hero mentally disagreed. The girl always walks with the boy, and suddenly one of the chickens went crazy and screamed. The main character turned around to see what was happening there. Pochi got angry and rushed at the guests of that boy. The young man did not understand what had suddenly happened to him, and Akava replied that this always happens. Many could not help but notice. The hero had incredible birds. Shohei smiled and invited the man to come inside. Aikawa's car is rushing to Sho's house, while Pochi is meanwhile looking for vipers. Unfortunately, none were found. Suddenly, he noticed a passing car. Rin was in it, and this irritated him. The owner of the Western Mountain gave the hero an expensive gift, and at first he did not want to take it. Too luxurious. But Aikawa explained that the farmer who owed him finally repaid the debt, so it could be accepted calmly, and Sho sincerely thanked him. Aikawa suddenly became serious and apologized to the hero for last night, and the hero said there was no need to apologize. Then the neighbor asked in surprise if these chickens had always lived in these mountains. Sho replied that he bought them at the local rural fair. He bought all three right there. Painted chickens are a real rarity, but now they have lost their colors. Aikawa quietly asked if the hero had met the girl who lives in the east. He replied that he saw her quite recently, the day before yesterday, and did not understand what Katsuragi had to do with it. The neighbor cannot find peace. She is worried about her pet. Shu said it was a large lizard, resembling a dragon. She bought this lizard at the fair. The hero became interested in what kind of animal Aikawa had. He replied that he moved here 3 years ago and bought 2 small snakes at the fair. Before buying, he first made sure they were not poisonous. The boy realized something was wrong, and Aikawa blurted out, "They just became gigantic." Shu suggested they might be pythons. The neighbor thought so too, but was still amazed at how insanely fast they grew. Then he looked at Yuma and noticed that his chickens were huge too. Shu had just measured them, about 50 centimeters, and the tails were clearly not feathered, more like a lizard's. Katsuragi said they resembled cockatrices. Suddenly Aikawa guessed. For some reason, all the animals they bought at this fair were mythical. Shu said it was just a mutation, and the neighbor replied that this did not explain why his snakes grew so much. Maybe they just had too many necks. Aikawa asked if the hero remembered the girl who was always nearby, dark-haired and pale. He confirmed everything, and the man added that today she was with him too. The hero tensed and recalled Pochi's reaction. He thought it was a joke, but Ikva was not joking. He got up from the chair and said he would introduce them. They went out of the house, and the little dog was standing by the car. Yuma grabbed the boy by the leg. Suddenly he remembered that he had to keep his back straight. I approached Rin and told him directly that he had told them about her and asked her to show him. She agreed. The girl got out of the car. She had a human head and the body of a giant snake. Shohei was terribly scared. Ikawa said that this was one of 2 snakes, but she did not look like a snake at all. The hero agreed. He looked at the girls with eyes full of fear. She froze and was silent. Pucci suddenly began to growl threateningly at the girl. She gently laid her tail on Aikawa's shoulder. He admitted that it was hard for him, and she replied that the little bird was very noisy. Shohei gently calmed Pochi, explaining that Rin came with Aikawa and posed no threat, so Pochi could relax. He agreed but remained cautious. The hero clarified that when the neighbor bought this thing, it was most often a snake. Aikawa confirmed and added that the male looks like a giant snake, and Rin one morning just started to look like that. The hero completely lost hope. If his chickens can still be considered ordinary mutants, then with the snake it won't work anymore. Shohei still can't believe this is not a dream. Rin said that she eats insects. Aikawa and Shohei are sitting on the veranda. The neighbor asks, as if looking for a snack, if he has any insects here to nibble on. Pochi confirmed this. Sho said that the girl can try to look, but he is fighting pests here. The man replied that everything is fine. Then he heard the sound of water. The hero was convinced that a river flowed nearby. If there are crayfish there, Rin will eat them. And everyone is shocked. She even ate crayfish. While the snake was looking for a snack, the hero asked if snakes hunt each other. He replied that if the snake were smaller, they would have eaten it without problems. It is unlikely that there is a snake of a larger size. The hero thought it would be scary if there were snakes of such sizes here. The boy fearfully told him that there were plenty of vipers around his house, and Aikawa suggested that Rin deal with them. But the main opener refused. His chickens considered them food. The man smiled and agreed. He did not want that boy to be bitten. Shu caught himself thinking, maybe he was a good person. He asked if wild boars or bears lived on the Western Mountain. He replied that he had not seen bears. But when Ranu was 10, one day he caught a wild boar and ate it. The hero's chickens also recently caught some pest. Ikawa heard about it in the village and is sure that they have all already encountered it. Shu inquired if there were many wild boars here. Ikawa says, "If you look, there is so much wild forest in their mountains, so there should be plenty of game, and there are fewer and fewer hunters every year," and the man only replied that he has a hunting license. The hero asked the man if he has a hunting rifle, and he replied that he does. It is at home, and if needed, will help during the hunt. The hero said, "You can rely on Ikawa." He himself believes that at first glance it is very difficult to understand who Ikawa is, but he is definitely not bad. Suddenly you were blown somewhere, and in the next moment she was holding a viper in her beak. The hero thanked Yuma and asked her to wait while he went for a bottle. Then he stuffed Viper into the bottle, and the neighbor enthusiastically praised the boy. Sho told that an old man from the village taught him this. Ikawa imagined this and asked what that boy would do with her. He replied that he would sell it to Uncle Yamoto, let him brew sake, and the owner of the western mountain thought the same. Night was already creeping in. The hero said goodbye and added that if he needed help, he would turn to Ikawa. They went home, and Yuma and Shohei stood and watched them go. Turning home, the boy scratched his head and said he did not expect this. Although Ikawa spoke about snakes in such a way, it seems they actually listened to him. Suddenly the phone rang. On the other end was Uncle Yamato, who said he wants to go gather wild herbs tomorrow. Shui agreed, thanked him, and hung up. If it is someone he knows, let them take without any questions. He is only worried about strangers who come here. But if someone breaks into his territory, better to be cautious. Who knows what is in their head? The hero stretched and said that tomorrow they will also go out on patrol. Before preparing bamboo shoots, Pochi strolls among the stalks and recalls how the master enjoyed eating bamboo. He bit it, but it turned out to be tough and completely tasteless, so he spat it out. While Shohei was collecting trash, suddenly someone called him. It was Uncle Yamato. He said he had gathered bamboo shoots and asked the boy to come to him tomorrow. Bamboo shoots can already be gathered at the beginning of May. At the foot of the mountain lies a bamboo grove bordering Mount Ikawa. And by the way, it seems the neighbor also hung warning signs. It looks like a warning so that no one gets caught by Rin. His chickens immediately attack anyone who breaks in here without permission, and of course, the one who climbs in will be to blame. Stretching a wire fence across the entire mountain turned out to be impossible, and he didn't even suspect that owning the mountain would bring so much trouble. But he likes it here. It's hard with her, but they will somehow manage. The boy's phone rang again. Miya Katsuragi's name lit up on the screen, he answered, and the first thing he heard was an apology. The girl was shouting into the receiver that she had no one else to turn to. She was asking the boy for help. Miyako Katsuragi asked the boy for help, and the main character remained depressed. He agreed to help her and asked where he should go. She shouted and ordered him to go to her mountain. Shohei asked her to calm down and asked if the villagers would come to help him faster than he himself. She replied that she could not ask them. He understood everything and said he would come now. The young man realizes that Katsuragi is not panicking. Did something really bad happen? He told the chickens that he was going to Katsuragi and asked them what they would do. Tama and Yuma will go with the boy, and Pochi will stay for the watch. The gates leading to Mount Miya were open. Usually they were locked, so the boy became alert. He drove up to the girl's house. She met him and immediately began to apologize for the hero having to come here. The young man asked her not to worry, but instead to tell him what had happened. The girl blushed with shame, words stuck in her throat. At first, she suggested the boy sit down. Sat on the veranda, Shohei asked where Tatsuki was, and the girl replied that she was near the house. He noticed a reptile, greeted it, apologized for the disturbance, and asked if his chickens could eat insects. The lizard gave permission. Tears stood in the girl's eyes. She thanked him and asked the boy to forgive her. An awkward pause hung between them. Suddenly the girl jumped up and remembered that she needed to brew tea. The boy tried to dissuade her, but she had already rushed to the kitchen. Bringing the tea, Shohei thanked the girl and asked if it was all right that he had closed the gates. She once again sincerely thanked him and apologized. She lowered her head and said that she might not choose the right words, but asked for permission to speak. Sho told her that if she didn't want to talk, she didn't have to. She replied that she wanted him to listen to her. Before ending up here, Katsuragi lived with her boyfriend. When they were dating, the boyfriend was very kind to her, but as soon as they started living together, the nightmare began. Domestic violence became the norm. She was afraid that if it continued, he would just kill her, so she ran away to her parents. But he found her, and the police intervened. The boy's parents paid a huge amount of money to buy her silence. 2 years ago, she decided to use that money to buy this mountain to escape. The ex was not supposed to know where she moved, but in the village she heard that some man came and was asking about her. His voice sounded exactly like her ex's, and she instantly panicked. The girl says it could have been another person, but she is still afraid. The hero says that it is really scary. He stands and doesn't know what to say. Even if someone tells her it was another person, the fear will not go away. But the boy cannot stay overnight. So who else knew about this situation? They asked. She answered, Yamanaka. She is from the village. But she cannot rely on Yamanaka. Tatsuki cannot stand her husband. Sho asked if Yamanaka knew that her ex was in the village, and she, a little embarrassed, admitted that she hadn't told him yet, and he decided that it was better to tell them anyway and immediately asked what else she wanted to do. The girl looked at the boy, not understanding. He explained that she had 3 options: to hide in the mountains, return to her parental home, or continue living peacefully but be more careful. This is what suddenly came to the boy's mind. First, she needed to find out exactly who was looking for her. It would be worth talking to Yamanaka, but the very thought of bothering him repelled her, and if nothing worked out, she would have to hide in the mountains. And even if it really was her ex, the fence wouldn't help. The hero looked at Tatsuki and asked if the lizard would understand that someone had entered its territory. Now she could trust Tatsuki. Her boyfriend would be able to come immediately if something happened. He might seem cold to her, but in reality, he couldn't care about her that much. He told her that there was no perfect solution here, and she would have to choose on her own. Silence fell between them again. Then the hero said that tomorrow he planned to visit Yamato and suggested the girl go with him to talk to Yamanaka. She agreed and asked him to contact them. After Shohei called Yamato, he received permission to take me with him. He told the girl about this and promised to contact her when he left. She thanked him. Then she told him that she had prepared rice with bamboo shoots and offered him to try it. He agreed. The girl asked the boy to wait and ran into the house. The hero watched her with his eyes and thought that he was not serious. She handed him a large box of bamboo shoots. The boy looked at the quantity in surprise and asked if she really did not mind, and she replied that she got a little carried away and prepared too much. The hero set off home. Poki looks at the prepared bamboo shoots and remembers how they tasted when he tried them raw. After smelling them, he decided to take a risk and try them, and was truly delighted. Arriving home, he writes to the girl that if someone unfamiliar to her comes to the mountain, she can call him. But the girl does not understand why he suddenly acted that way. The boy recalls the moment when he broke up with his girlfriend. In his 3rd year working at the company, he finally saved enough money to propose to his girlfriend. She could not even imagine that a month before the wedding she would leave him. Seeing how he looked, Yuma approached and gently pressed against his leg. He stroked her head and thanked her. 3 months had passed since Shohei broke up with his girlfriend, and when he moved to the mountains, he had already begun to forget about it. But now this story resurfaced in his thoughts again. He looks there and asks himself, how can I care for others if I cannot take care of myself? Yesterday, the hero had to bother his grandfather to talk to Yamato. Yuma went with him, and Pochi and Tama ran to the mountains. The boy thought that they were just going for a walk, but in any case, they would be able to feed themselves, and he himself went to the store. Shui asks the saleswoman if it is true that during Golden Week tourists often come here. And she smiles and replies that some locals come to visit relatives, and there are also tourists. The boy wonders why tourists come here at all. She replies that they walk in nature and gather wild plants. They come specifically, but there really is nothing here. He bought bamboo shoots. Yamamoto's wife said that she could get up and gather them herself, and he replied that he does not know how to cook them, so he decided to give them to him so they would not go to waste. The woman offered Yuma some vegetables, and she gladly agreed. The aunt said that she heard that Moya would also come, but that woman had nothing to feed the lizard. The young man reassured her, saying that large reptiles can go several days without food. Anti still was embarrassed. Suddenly someone appeared. The hero turned around and looked. It was Mia. She apologized for being late. She handed the woman a basket with several herbs. She agreed and told her that just yesterday she said it would be good to gather them. At that moment, the old man came out, and the hero handed him a viper in a bottle. The girl was frightened. The boy apologized for scaring her. The old man raised his glass and sincerely proposed to drink to the blessing of the mountains and the blooming spring. The heroes looked at him in surprise. Sho asked what relation spring had to this, seriously frowned, and wondered if Mia and Shohei were together. Aunt hit the man on the head with a magazine and sharply asked what nonsense he was talking about. Then she turned to the heroes and said she would make him kneel and apologize, but the young man replied that it was not necessary and thanked her. Evening came. Grandfather and aunt sincerely thanked the young people for coming and talking, and the boy thanked them for the food and for seeing him home. On the way home, the hero thinks that Golden Week ends tomorrow. Fortunately, nothing happened to her. He noticed his chickens. They behaved strangely. When he asked what happened, they only repeated his words, and the hero thought, did he fall in love with this quiet life? Pochi went fishing. He was playing in the water. Suddenly he noticed a stone. Under it was a cavity, and someone's eyes were flickering there. The hero walks through the forest, collects trash, and thinks that Golden Week passed without adventures. Katsuragi's ex-boyfriend also did not show up. Soon the hero will not be able to visit her often. They cannot afford to relax, but they want to believe that everything will be fine. Now he can only listen to her. Suddenly Pochi jumped into the water. The hero was surprised and thought he was diving there for dessert. The chicken caught a crayfish. Shu told the chicken that it could be eaten. It was right here that he remembered that I called his words about Rin even eating crayfish. He decided to bring the neighbor a couple of crayfish. His snakes eat them. The hero wrote to Ikawa and asked if Rin eats crayfish. Ikawa replied that she even eats them raw. They cheer her up, and the boy returned to Pochi and said that he easily catches crayfish. And as soon as he was asked to catch a couple for Ikawa, he immediately rushed into the water. The hero tried to stop him. He wanted him to catch them not today, but at least tomorrow. Eventually, Pochi caught that couple. 2 days later, the main hero came to visit Ikawa. There were only 2 with him. The neighbor noticed this and asked why. He replied that one was standing guard. The man noticed how reliable that boy's chickens were. Then he handed Ikawa a bucket filled with crayfish, and the man said in surprise that it really wasn't necessary to bring so many. Shaw said that he himself did not even expect Pochi to catch so many in a couple of days. It was creepy to see how many there were in that little river. Akava suggested that they were most likely brought here artificially, and being omnivorous, they managed to survive and reproduce. He sincerely thanked the hero and promised that next time he would bring something, then called Rin and 10. Giant snakes crawled out. The hero still felt awkward. Rin thanked the boy. He greeted her and asked if it was already 10 o'clock. The snake sincerely thanked the boy for talking to 10. Ikawa begged the snake not to eat Sada's chickens. Then Rin said that they could eat now, but asked to leave some so they could prepare, and then he invited Shohei inside. They stepped over the threshold of the master of the Western Mountains house. The interior was stylish. Ikawa explained that they had to renovate a second time to accommodate 10 people and rent out the place. Shohei asked permission for his chickens to peck grass and catch insects, and the man agreed. The hero explained that Rain and 10 prefer meat more, and Ikawa confirmed and said they would not help with the weeds at all. The hero addressed Pochi and said that weeds and insects were in their hands. The neighbor called them very reliable. The man treated the boy to tea. The young man noticed that even the dishes were stylish. Then the hero noticed a metal cabinet in the corner. Akawa's pistol lay in that cabinet. Seno was stunned. He also wants to get a license because he was told that bears live here. Ikawa said that a new partner on the hunt is great, but with him comes a lot of trouble. You will have to get a permit to have a firearm. Then they started eating. The hero asked Yuma to set aside some vegetables, and Ikawa agreed, noting that chickens eat vegetables but his snakes, though reliable, are more troublesome. Shohei looked at Yuma and said that everyone has their own strengths. The crayfish were eaten very quickly, and when he was already about to go home, Rin and 10 snuggled up to him, probably to thank him, but he got very scared. I can't... What? I told the guy to come any time. The hero wanted to learn more about Rin and 10, but it was so pleasant just to chat about everything in the world. After that, he and Ikawa began to visit each other often, and when the heat came, the neighbor called him with a very anxious voice. Ikawa and Shohei met, and the neighbor, soaked to the bone, apologized for calling so suddenly. Usually the neighbor asked him to leave the gates open, but this time he said he had to close them. He asked what happened. I tilted my head and said that he was even a little ashamed. He asked his friend to listen to him, and Sho agreed. Sana sincerely thanked Rin for sharing the insects. The heroes entered the house. The boy really liked Ikawa's food. Ikawa smiled and admitted that he got so carried away and cooked too much. So if the hero wants, he can take some with him, and the boy sincerely thanked him. Keiva sighed deeply and said that in their country girls were often persecuted. The boy confirmed this. And what if the boy is being stalked? And what if the stalker is a girl? Sho understood that this was exactly why the man moved to live in the city. It was hard for him to even imagine such a thing. Ikawa said that it was his colleague at work. She didn't ask him, assumed they were dating, made a duplicate key, sneaked into his home, and rummaged through his things. He decided to tell his boss about it. She got so angry that the police had to be called. As a result, she was fired. The story leaves an unpleasant aftertaste. The court forbade her from approaching him, but he is still afraid. Having earned money on stocks with a friend's help, he decided to buy this mountain. The main character guessed that this girl came here. He replied no. He saw her when he went shopping in the neighboring city. The man suspected it might be some other girl, so he decided to consult a lawyer, who said she had moved to this prefecture quite recently. Fortunately, she had not yet been to the village. Ikawa wanted to say no, but still got scared. Suddenly he jumped up and exclaimed that he would help him with mountain work all his life, and also asked if the young man could go shopping with him. Sano agreed. Should he ask about Ren, whom he always takes with him? He replied that she always sits in the passenger seat. The man felt sorry. Sho sincerely understands the boy's fear, so he does not consider him pathetic. The man smiled and said that soon he would fall in love with him. The hero tensed up, but Akava smiled and explained that he was joking. It became a little easier, and he thanked that guy. Now we will have to gather information about women too, and now he has someone to go shopping with. Besides, he said he would help him on the mountain, so he doesn't mind. He recalled the situations of his neighbors and thought about how difficult human relationships can be. He hugged Pochi, Tama, and Yuma tightly and said he was very happy to have them. But as soon as he said that, Tama suddenly started pecking him. When the chickens visited Rin and Ten for the second time, they asked about the crab. Yuma shook her head in denial. The snakes became sad. The hero measures his chickens. They are already a meter tall, and he is completely amazed. How could this have happened? The chickens immediately echoed his words. How could this have happened? Yesterday they were about 70 centimeters. He is with them every day and tries to convince himself that it is just his imagination, but now they have noticeably grown overnight. He didn't know what to do. He bowed his head and asked if it was harmful to them that they were growing so fast. The chicks repeated after him and also bowed their heads. If they grow so fast, won't they get sick? They repeated the phrase they had, and the hero thought that, apparently, nothing was hurting them. And he is sure, veterinarians simply don't understand chickens with lizard tails. If you think about it, this is rather a story about dinosaurs. Birds are descendants of dinosaurs, and the proof of this is the discovered feathered dinosaurs. He still wouldn't say that this story is about lizards. He opened Yuma's beak. There were many sharp teeth, and he thought that such teeth were too scary for chickens. He was troubled by the question, did anyone still buy animals from that man back then? Everyone noticed the same thing. A sudden, rapid growth to enormous sizes. It was the same with Tatsuki, Rin, and Ten, and he wouldn't have paid so much attention if they all didn't have such strange animals. Shohei was working in the garden, wiped the sweat from his face, and thought that working in the field was a good way to distract himself. The grandfather called the boy and asked if he would come today. The boy replied that he would go shopping first. The old man invited him to lunch. The young man immediately warned that his chickens had grown again. Turning off the ringtone, the hero sighed. Now he could hardly believe that he had planted so many vegetables. Suddenly, Pochi ran up to him with a rabbit in his teeth. The boy got scared and called his grandfather, asking what to do with the rabbit. The grandfather simply replied, "Let it go because in this area they are endangered." He told the chickens that he would return in the evening, asked them to take care of everything here, and left the burden on Pochi and Yuma. If you think about it, it is hard for him to imagine life without his chickens. Shohei had been living here for 3 months. The old man warned him that the rainy season would start soon, so he needed to prepare the house and watch the roads because they could be washed away. Sho understood everything and sincerely thanked him for the advice. The young boy completely forgot that the rainy season was approaching. The roads were dirt, so a heavy downpour could wash them away, and he wouldn't be able to get to the village. He asked what to do with the mountain roads. The old man explained that first of all, it is necessary to identify dangerous sections and get rid of trees that could fall and block the way. If the road is blocked or washed away, usually it is cleared with machinery in about 10 days, unless it is raining. Equipment can be obtained by ordering a private company from the city. The village cannot afford this. The hero thought that living in the mountains is much harder than he had imagined. Then Shohei inquired if they knew anyone else who bought chickens at the spring fair. The old man replied that he had never seen such large birds in others. And the woman also did not ask, but suggested that such birds might be at the poultry farm because they worked with chickens. Could they really be there? The old man reassured him. Don't worry. Nothing is bought here. Everything is brought in. The hero glanced at Tama and decided that he was a foreign spy, and the woman laughed at his words. The grandfather said that on such stalls, birds are more often taken from meat. He was lucky. The male went along with 2 females. And since chickens usually need to be about 4 to 5 months old to start laying eggs, his chickens will start laying around July. The old man asked if that guy had any vaccinations. He thought a little, and replied that he had been vaccinated against tetanus. The man clarified, he meant the chickens. The hero could hardly believe that chickens needed to be vaccinated. The old man replied that it is absolutely necessary if he wants them to lay eggs. It turned out that chickens need to be vaccinated, and he had no idea what to do with them. Will they even allow them to be vaccinated? In any case, he was given the contact of a poultry farm worker. He needs to talk to him. The hero came to the poultry farm and announced that he was from Yamato. The chickens there were quite ordinary. He met a man who worked there. The man asked if Sono was a relative of that old man. Sono shrugged and replied that he was only a friend of his relatives, and then suddenly noticed the guy's chicken. He noticed that she did not look like a giant chicken at all. Simply, such big ones do not exist. Maybe it is some kind of wild chicken species, but wild chickens are usually not so white. Yamato clarified whether she was already adult or still growing. He replied that she was still growing and fed on vipers. The man thought that maybe that was why they were so big. Then he asked what he fed his chickens. The hero replied that he fed them vegetable scraps. They entered the room, and Sho told the chicken that here she could eat something. Yamato noticed. She was smart and understood what he was saying. Sano gave Yamamoto's wife a gift, and Yamamoto himself said, "The more I look at her, the more she seems to me." Umoto asked if that guy gave them a vaccine. He replied no. They had not gotten sick yet, but he did not know when it might happen. There is no need to inject the vaccine directly anymore. Today it is often just diluted in water or sprayed as a spray. If they are calm, it is better to inject. The hero thinks Yuma will endure it, but Pochi and Tama will just eat him alive. They are free range, so the option with a drinker is not suitable. Only spraying remains. If vaccination is needed, Matsuyama will help him, but money is still needed, and he does not want his chickens to get sick. Yamamoto advised the guy to look into the chicken coop, but first it needed to be disinfected. Without strict hygiene, animal husbandry is impossible. Just imagine how many bacteria you can carry on yourself. Should our hero worry about his chickens too? Sano asked the man if he had heard anything about those colorful chickens sold at the fair. The man replied that he didn't understand why anyone would buy them. They were no good for meat, and only males were sold there. The young man doesn't understand why Tama and Yuma were there at all. When they said goodbye, Yamato gave the boy the contact information of a veterinarian who could examine him. Shui suspects that Katsuragi might have the same problem with Tatsuki. And Ikeva and Rin. If they get sick, you can't take them to the vet. He should thank Ikeva for watching over the mountain while he is away. He wrote to Aikawa asking for help to prepare for landslides and erosion. Aikawa agreed. And Sono felt that having a more experienced friend nearby would be very helpful. On the way to his friend, the young man suddenly realized Aikawa had already done everything. He arrived, greeted Rin at 10, and Pochi rushed to them. Tin rang the bell. Aikawa said they were already on their way. Stepping outside, he greeted his friend. They entered the house, and the man treated the boy to fresh rice and fresh green peas. Then he decided to switch to landslide protection. Said he had looked at plastic fences. He found a suitable one. You can easily install it yourself. It at least holds something back. But yes, the mountain needs regular maintenance. The man pondered. Then he said that he was just lucky, but since Rin was 10, he hadn't had a single collapse. Last year, strong typhoons and heavy rains passed, so there was damage everywhere. Many trees fell in the mountains, but there were no heavy downpours there. They were just very lucky. If it had happened only once, he would have written it off as a coincidence, but it wasn't the first time. Nothing was happening here, although evacuations were going on everywhere, and the hero thought that a lot of dangers and problems might be hiding in the mountains. Aikawa is not quite sure, but still thinks that it is thanks to Rin and Ten. The hero glanced over Ikawa's roads and wrote down everything that needed to be done. The rainy season was almost here, so he had to hurry. Sitting at home, the boy silently crosses off one by one all the items he wrote down while observing the neighbor. The things he orders online will be delivered to his grandfather, and Ikawa said he would pick them up himself. Of course, it would be great if they were delivered directly to the mountains. If he wanted, he could go to the city and buy everything himself, but he just can't force himself to do it. It seems he still hasn't let go of everything, and it still hurts. They looked so wonderful together. Everyone in the circle knew about the upcoming wedding, and it was visible even from afar. Everyone knew they would get married soon, but when they broke up, he couldn't stand the looks of others around. He loved her. A picture of a happy family was already forming in his mind. And what's wrong with the fact that my fiancé decided to go study abroad right before the wedding? While his world was narrow, she flew away and decided to end their marriage. The wedding was already planned, so he received money as compensation. But why did she support his dreams and hopes in the first place? He worked in a small company, so he could no longer work there. With that money, he managed to buy a mountain. He said it was all sad. The chickens repeated after him. He mentally thanked them for their understanding. Winnie hugged Yuma tightly and thanked his chickens. At night, lying in bed, the hero thinks about how much the animals have grown, and is glad he met his chickens. Katsuragi and Akawa also carry emotional wounds, and their animals save them. But his scar is only his. He will not share it with anyone. He is sure that someday all their wounds will heal and their hearts will beat again as always. Shohei receives a message. Mia asks how he is, because the rainy season is about to begin. The hero recently visited Yamanaka to find out how things were, but unfortunately there is no news and no one has seen the former Katsuragi. Shohei saw that Yamanaka was very worried about Katsuragi, but he had nothing to tell her, so at that moment he just smiled foolishly. Honestly, Shohei feels awkward interfering in this matter. If someone asks him personally, he will, of course, help. But when others ask him to help them, that's a completely different matter. But, considering that her ex might be dangerous to her, it's better to be prepared. On the mountain is Shohei, but when he finally arrived, there was almost no one there. 5 years passed before he moved here. By the way, the house was cleaned up, and that surprised him. On the mountain of that boy there is also a cemetery, as if people who once lived here are buried here. Relatives and families always warn him when they will come, but the hero still tends the graves. Who knows when the relatives of the deceased will be able to come at all, so it's better to be safe. The chickens also inspect the cemetery around. Shohei notices that they are especially energetic today. Their energy sometimes tires him, and then suddenly one of the chickens turns back and scares the boy. She caught a viper again, and this time she is allowed to eat it. While the chickens share the prey, the hero receives a message. Mia wrote to him, thanks him, says that thanks to his support she can live normally, and asks if he will come for dinner because she has grown a lot of peas. The hero is not thrilled by this message. He replies that he will come whenever it is convenient for her, and asks what time is better to arrive. Meanwhile, Shohei thinks that the girl has no hidden intentions. She is simply lonely. He thought that it was probably just a polite invitation. Mia replied that it is more convenient for her the next day or the day after, and this surprised him. He calls the hens by name, catches their attention, and, confused, says that he does not understand girls at all and still does not know when he should come. Yuma rushes to calm him down. The hero thinks that they will bring him to tears. Yuma is simple and very kind, while Pochi and Tama are much colder. Of course, everyone has their own character, but sometimes he so wants to be among cute, fluffy creatures. You must support the hero. She gives him flowers from the garden. A few days passed. Shohei sets off to Katsuragi and asks Pochi to look after the house. Pochi agrees in a soldierly manner. At this time, the hero receives a message. He recognizes, it's Aikawa. The neighbor smiles. He brought good alcohol, so he suggests drinking together and spending the night. The hero understands that Aikawa is also lonely, so he does not intend to stay long in Katsuragi. Just in case, he suggests meeting tomorrow because he has business today, and Aikawa agrees. Mia is just harvesting when suddenly the hero appears. They greeted each other sincerely, and Sano immediately offered his help. The girl gladly agrees to help. It seems she planted too much. For such work, she offers to take a part of the harvest. The hero replies that he would be grateful. Suddenly he remembered Tatsuki and asked where he was. Mia answered that he was definitely lying in the shade of the house. She is sure of this, and Shohei would like to greet him. They find Tatsuki at the agreed place. The hero greets him and asks if his chickens can peck insects, to which the dragon agrees. The boy thanks him and asks Toma and Yuma to have fun, but immediately gets scared when Toma climbs on Tatsuki and starts pecking his skin. Mia also sees this. She thinks the chicken is cleaning him of insects and wonders if this is some kind of symbiosis that happens in nature and in other animals. And Shohei is surprised that Tatsuki is not offended by such a comparison. The girl says she will prepare tea now. The hero thanks her and returns the basket to its place. They sit on the veranda. Mia asked to wait a second. She prepared something. Sano agreed. He admires the view and notices that there is true calm all around. Tatsuki appears from around the corner of the house and offers Yuma to play with him if she wants. The chicken stubbornly refuses and stays nearby. And later Mia approaches and apologizes for that wait. The hero froze in surprise before the treat. The girl excuses herself, saying she cooked too much again and there is still a lot left. Shohei eats with pleasure and says it is very tasty. The perfect balance of peas and rice. After that, the hero, not hiding his curiosity, asks how Mia generally takes care of the mountain. She answers simply. She pays the village council, and in return the villagers help her. The boy finds this logical. After all, it is clearly hard for one girl to manage alone. He suddenly asks if she vaccinates Tatsuki, and she is surprised to learn that she is hearing about vaccinations for large lizards for the first time. Sano agrees with her. Essentially, only cats and dogs are vaccinated. Mia says she will think about vaccination just in case. And then the boy asks how she has been lately. The girl replied that nothing has changed. Since Golden Week, there has been no news about her ex, so she has calmed down a bit. She apologizes for the inconvenience. Shohei does not mind. Helping each other is quite natural for him. Then the girl draws his attention. Nia says her words may sound bold, but it would really help her if he came to her sometimes. The hero does not understand what she means. He agrees to come if she invites him, and the girl thanks him for that. They fall silent and drink tea quietly. Sano is sure that she is also simply lonely, like Ikawa, and has no hidden intentions. After that, the heroine and the chickens left with a mountain of food and harvest. She noticed that she gets carried away too often when cooking, but everything was very tasty. The next day he goes to Aikawa. He is tormented by questions. What is the relationship between Aikawa and Ren? And what made Ren make half of her body human? He is always embarrassed to ask about it. Tama is furious. The hero says that today she is on guard again. This time they are going to Aikawa. He feels awkward at the thought of leaving her alone, so Sano asks if he will go with him, and Tama is still angry and does not respond. Poki nudged him in the leg. The boy is still nervous, but says that since Pochi insists, he still won't be able to catch up with Tom. The hero remembers how he once chased her. She kicked and bit him, so now he won't make the same mistake again. Shohei calls from this car. The house is open, you can sleep inside, and 2 buckets of crayfish are waiting in the trunk. The hero is greeted by Rin and Ten. He greets them and says that he is staying overnight today. Would they mind if his chickens eat insects? The snakes reply that they do not object. Sano notes that Rin does not like to talk much, but Ten is the opposite. The boy gives gifts. Rin and Ten exclaim what a good boy he is. Such a sharp reaction scares Shohei, and aloud he says that his chickens caught it. Aikawa comes out and greets the hero. Sano tells him that he likes crayfish. The neighbor looks amazed. So many again. He takes a bucket, thanks Pochi and Yumi, and asks them to feel at home. The hero notices that Aikawa also treats his chickens with respect. Sometimes it seems to him that the chickens are the masters here, not him, and they even get more than he does. The heroes enter the house. Shohei apologizes for not bringing anything else. In response, they say that there are enough crayfish. He brought a whole bunch for the snakes. The hero wishes him a good meal, and asks again if he understood correctly that this is no key. Aikawa replies that last year he bought their seeds and grew them at home, which greatly surprised Sano. He could not even imagine. It turns out the neighbor tries so many things. At that moment, he takes out the purchased alcohol. The hero asks if this is a Chinese drink and if he often drinks it. Ikawa denies it, says it is a gift from a friend who sold him this mountain, a souvenir from China, and Sano thoughtfully wonders what is written there. The neighbor sadly says that Mo Tai is very strong alcohol and it should be served with ice or diluted, and the hero now guesses which province it is from, and Ikawa does not know. Shohei recalls with a smile how his chickens received their gift. The heroes continue eating when Kawa says that it is delicious with fried chicken, and then catches Sano's gaze. The boy suddenly realizes that he did not think about it and sincerely apologizes. Shohei replies that everything is fine. Recently they went to a poultry farm, he bought a chicken there to fry it, and no one complained. Aikawa asks how it is at the poultry farm, and the hero says it is a real place. He adds that he decided it is worth vaccinating his chickens too. The neighbor wonders if snakes are vaccinated, looks at them and realizes, even if they were vaccinated, it does not suit them. Sano asks in surprise if Rin was always like that. Ikawa calmly answers that this appearance appeared about a year ago and has not changed since, and the hero then asks again, did it happen suddenly or was there some trigger? He imagined what would happen if Yuma turned into a beautiful girl, but immediately rejected this thought. Kawa also wondered what could have provoked it. He says that about a year after they appeared with him, they grew to 2 meters long. Ten always stayed at home, and Ren often went to the city with him. One day a situation happened. When Akawa came to the city, the girls constantly bothered him because he was handsome. The boy had not yet gotten rid of his fear and instantly ran away, but the girls still approached, and when they saw Rin, they screamed and ran away, and this scared the boy even more. Aqua felt relief, and on the way home tightly hugged Rin until the trembling in his hand subsided. He says that that day he behaved miserably. He pitifully complained to 10 people and ran all night, thinking that if a girl had been sitting in the chair, no one would have touched him. Wondered why he complained at all, and then in the morning, he came across the transformed Rin nearby. Sangno asks if that was the moment when Rin changed, and the neighbor says that Rin turned pale and was surprised how some girl ended up in his house. He thought he could have brought her himself, because when he came home he was quite drunk. When the guy rushed to run away from her, he noticed her lower body and immediately understood everything. Now everything became clear to the hero. He admitted that when he first saw her, he initially did not believe his eyes. Ikawa added that seeing Ten calmly standing nearby, he finally understood what was what. Show what Hei feels. Did she seem strange to him even at the first meeting? They continue eating, and the hero suddenly realizes that he has drunk enough. Akava at this moment wonders, why did Sano buy a mountain if he hasn't divided it yet? The hero says that he is not as bad as Ikawa. His marriage fell apart, and he hated the whole world. The neighbor asks what the matter is, but Shohei does not want to answer. He says that they were engaged and had even already set a wedding date. And then suddenly she said that she wanted to go study abroad. The hero asked if she would return and if it was worth postponing the wedding date. She replied that she would stay there for a few months, and then the hero cried. The crying becomes louder and louder. Ikawa begs for forgiveness. Sano may not say it. The hero, through tears, kept repeating that she did not return because she wanted to enter a prestigious university and asked him to pretend as if they had never known each other. Shokai himself does not understand whether these are tears of sadness, loneliness, or simply of anger. He says his problem is not as big as persecution or domestic violence. But then why all this? Why say they will marry, and that she loved him if she was going to leave anyway? Sano feels miserable. He could do nothing. She was his whole world, but she did not want to let him into hers. Ikawa puts a glass of water in front of the surprised hero and says it is tasty. Sano wipes his tears and drinks it, remembering that if you cry a lot, you can become dehydrated. The hero bows his head and quietly says that he is truly sorry. Ikawa is surprised by this. He gets lost in words and asks to raise his head. He himself was quite tipsy then, and also asks Pochi to step aside. Sano is tense, searching for more words, and does not get up. The neighbor says that they are friends and help each other, so there is nothing wrong with him telling him everything, especially since the hero also knows everything about him. And as he says this, the boy glances at Ren. Pochi places his paw on Shokai's head. He lifts it and asks for forgiveness again. He is so pitiful. Ikawa says he has nothing to apologize for. He did nothing, everything is fine, so do not thank him for such words. Yuma and Pochi started arguing. The hero thought that even Yuma considers it wrong to step on his head. And at that moment, he gets a call. The guy recognized Matsuyama and answered the call. Asked again if he understood correctly that the veterinarian would come the day after tomorrow. Said that you will visit then. Thanked and apologized for the trouble. He looks at Yuma and thinks, are reptiles vaccinated? Tutsuki has thick skin and a giant height, almost 2 meters, and then he thinks about how to vaccinate a huge snake with a girl's body. He is afraid that they will be shown on television together with their monsters, or that his chickens will be interviewed. He already sees a headline about fantasy and reality and how a real lamia is invited on air. The hero looks at the chickens and feels that they will never quietly surrender to journalists, and remembers that he still needs to give Matsuyama something. Sano asks Ikawa for advice, and he suggests giving some fruit. Maybe not the most manly gift, but suitable for the family. The next day the heroes go shopping. Shohei smiled and said to Ikawa, "You always come up with wonderful ideas." The neighbor says that there is always something to do in the mountains, but there is a lot of loneliness, so he often remains alone with his thoughts. The hero feels that it is incredibly hard for him to be alone with his thoughts. When they return to the cars, Sano suddenly notices something. He sees Rin and Yume talking. Ikawa notices that the girls get along well with each other. The hero agrees. After all, having friends is truly pleasant. He hands his neighbor a gift and sincerely thanks him for the constant help. Ikawa responds with mutual gratitude, saying he would have nothing to give. But Rin loves them, and Sano thinks all girls like sweets. Sweet is tasty. He does not know if chickens taste this flavor, but once decided to treat them with cherries and struggled removing the pits because he read they are harmful to chickens. Joey begs the hens not to peck the bones, but instead they start shooting at Madam. Today he will go to the poultry farm. He understands that before the vaccination he did not properly inspect his chickens. But now the main thing is to meet with the veterinarian, and then decide. While the hero was preparing his truck, Pochi suddenly dashed into the thick bushes. Sano did not say a word to them about the vaccination. He believed it was some kind of animal intuition. He calls the hen, "Come back quickly!" But Pochi does not answer. He returns to Tama and Yuma and says there is nothing to be done. They reply that it is so, and this reaction wildly surprises him. He wonders if anyone actually just answered him. Sano understands that this time he will have to surrender. He shouted to Pochi that he will definitely go next time, and asked to watch over the house. Maybe next time he will manage to find another way. The hero arrives at the bird farm, greets Mrs. Matsuyama. She responds with a smile. Sano hands her a souvenir, and the woman, smiling happily, says, "You shouldn't have, but I really appreciate it," while the hero mentally thanks Ikawa. Men approach him. The hero greets and thanks them for their help, and they reply that there is no need to thank. The veterinarian looks at the chickens with surprise. How big they are. Matsuyama introduces the man to the hero. The veterinarian's name is Kimoto. He smiles and says he is glad to meet him and that he is a veterinarian from city, and Suna replies that the feeling is mutual. The man recalls how he was told about 3 chickens. Shohei sincerely apologizes. One escaped, and he couldn't catch it. Komodo asks if they roam freely and reassures it's not a big problem. He asks Matsuyama if he has devices to measure them and if they object. The man answers yes. The veterinarian says these chickens are bigger than Brahmas, 113.3 centimeter and weigh about 7.82 kilos. They are really heavy. He looks at the tail and asks what is wrong with it because it rather looks like a reptile's, then asks to open the beak and admits he has never seen anything like it. Komodo finishes the examination and decides, these are good girls. Sano thinks they have grown again. The veterinarian says they look more like feathered dinosaurs. They can be vaccinated like chickens, but only under the hero's responsibility. Sano said he heard, no vaccinations are needed. They just add medicine to the water. Kimoto replied that this is possible, quite safe and very simple. But even such vaccination will only worsen the situation if these are not chickens, and then it might not be needed. The hero agrees with him. He tells the men that he will think about it. That guy is convinced that his chicks understand what people are talking about. If he could completely avoid vaccination, he would be glad, so he decided that for now Dr. Komodo will just observe his chickens. Sano recalled that that day he was preparing a chicken dish. Tama and Yuma stared at him, but he ignored them. He couldn't resist the appetizing chicken, and the rainy season was about to start on the mountain. He was preparing for the rainy season. He bought a dehumidifier for the house, asked Ikawa how they used to fight moisture before, and he simply said, they use charcoal. It seems he is making charcoal for his stove. He clearly has enough material for it. It turned out that Sano also had a coal stove at home, but it was in terrible condition. Fortunately, Yamato volunteered to help. The hero shared the ready charcoal with his family and other neighbors. Shohei asked Ikawa what else could be done to fight moisture in the house. Ikawa replied that cutting down trees and mowing the grass around the house would help. The hero turned pale when he heard this. Learning that white clover can be given to chickens, he decided to plant it around the house. Clover requires almost no care. It grows quickly and effortlessly, just plant it. So the boy planted clover near the house to enjoy the view, and to have the house surrounded by flowers, like in a fairy tale. The hens eat and chirp that it is very tasty. Sano says that Tama and Yuma were also happy. How convenient it is when food grows near the doorstep. He remembered how they pecked him and constantly disturbed his work. Shohei then said that he was planting for them, and asked them not to interfere. After that, the hen happily went away, and the hero asked her to tell the others not to tear the grass here for about a week. This was at the end of April. When Sano entered the shop, the children gave him a flower wreath, or rather, his chicken. Now he looks at it. It was so cute that he decided to make wreaths for others. But Tama and Pochi looked at him with such disdain, so he decided to stop at Yuma. He sees that nothing is sticking. It turns out to be more complicated than he thought. The hero places a wreath on Yuma and asks her forgiveness for things not turning out as they should. She repeats the word, forgive. Sunal still thinks she is cute. He even says it out loud. Yuma asks again, and the hero confirms his words. The happy hen runs away and loudly shouts that she is cute. The hero mentally asks her to always stay that way because she is the best. Clover is a very useful plant, but if it brings moisture into the house, then nothing can be done. Her house is wooden and can quickly mold if not removed, so it will be transplanted farther away. But it's a pity to carry food for the chickens so far. Before the rain started, everything must be done in time. While Pochi and Tama were on patrol, he dug up and transplanted everything. When they returned, everyone began asking where the grass was, and because of this, no one suspects that now he will have to negotiate with Tama. He apologizes and says that the grass could not be planted near the house, so he transplanted it a little farther. Let her look. Toma continues to shout about the grass. The hero repeats that clover cannot be planted near the house, and the hen screams even louder. Sano says that this is wrong, but the angry Tama attacks him, and the hero shouts that it hurts him very much. The boy shouts that clover can mold the house, so it is not allowed, because it pecked him and he ran away from it. The next day his muscles hurt, and Tama noticed this, and began pecking him even more often. A real little devil. By the way, Pochi calmly pecked the clover all this time. He doesn't care where it grows. Like that. Before the first rain, the hero managed to get rid of all the grass. Now he thinks the moisture problem is solved. But he could not dare to completely get rid of it, so he transplanted a little into the flower bed. The main thing is to explain to the hens so that they understand. The flower bed must not be touched or pecked. One day a hen came across another snake. When it rains, there is nothing to do outside, so he just walked a little through the field and mostly felt like a recluse. Even the hens went on patrol in the light rain, and he walked alongside them. The hero noticed that the water had risen, but the further downstream, the dirtier it became. Probably, it is because of the dirt that the rain washes away. When it rains, everything can quickly become moldy, so the house must be inspected daily, especially the toilet and bathroom, because mold appears there the fastest. In the room in traditional Japanese style, he turned the dehumidifier on full power. Sano feels like a complete recluse. When he looked into the refrigerator, he saw that there was no meat. He remembers how they gave him a bunch of vegetables for coal, but the body demands meat. The boy returns to Yuma and says that there are no eggs either. It seems it is still too early for them to lay eggs. They might be fertilized, and he would never eat them. The hero understands. He needs to go shopping. Yuma follows him. Here he mentions snakes. Probably because of the rain, they started appearing more often. Moreover, Pochi caught not only vipers but also a tiger snake, and when he was allowed to eat it, he did so with joy. Tiger snakes are also venomous, so he didn't even think about whether it would be okay. And when he realized it, it was already too late. Noah watched him in case he suddenly felt bad, but he felt fine, like a chicken terminator. The hero called Umoto and said he had gathered several vipers. The man asked him to bring them because his things had just arrived. The boy thanked him and agreed, and then the man remembered something else. He says he has a question about Sano's chickens and asks to bring at least one, and Shohei asks what exactly the question is. Yorimoto replies that they will talk as soon as the hero arrives. Nothing serious, no need to worry. The hero says that if they want to show them on television, he will immediately refuse. The man laughs. If he wanted that, why would he ask to bring only one? He asks for the one that understands the language well, so no one agrees. The hero washes the chickens and says that the old man wanted to talk to them about something. Pochi responds, and the boy thinks with a smile. I knew it. My reliable Pochi will definitely answer. He addresses Tama, but she turns away. Sano decides that then she will look after the house. The hero wonders aloud what Yamato wanted to talk to them about, but finds no answer. And Pochi looks at him as if he is a fool for not asking that man what he wanted to talk about. Sono arrives in the village sleepily and warmly greets Yamamoto's wife. She beams with joy that Pochi and Yuma also came, and the boy is surprised that they behave so quietly with the grandmother. The woman chose his things. The hero sincerely thanks her and gives a few fruits as a gift. She reproachfully asks if he will really ruin her figure with these sweets. The boy smiles and says that this is a thank you for taking care of him, and he thinks, whether I call or he really knows about gifts. The woman replied that it was not worth it, and asked Pochi and Yume if they wanted something sweet. Umoto was delighted that the hero brought so many snakes. Hadn't his mountain become a breeding ground for vipers? He thanked his chickens. Sano replied that those snakes would most likely not appear again. The man happily grabs the bottles and says that under such circumstances the vipers won't come out for 6 months. The hero assumes that in Yamato there must already be plenty of snake shake, and he is already afraid of what will happen in a year. The man offers him to taste the fruits of his labor, but the hero refuses. He still needs to get home. On the mountain road there are only thin curbs in places. If the steering wheel trembles, one can fly off the road. Yamato agrees. If something happens to Sano, he won't even leave children. The hero reminds him that the man wanted to talk about something, and he himself recalled why this meeting was held. In this village, most people work in rice fields. It is a mountain village, so neighbors here can be various animals, and this year there are too many tiger snakes. They rarely bite people, but their venom is stronger than that of vipers. Yamato says that 2 have already been bitten. 1 was taken to the hospital, so everyone working in the field is in danger, and Shohei says that this is terrible. He recalls that Pochi recently caught one. The man is glad that the boy's chickens catch them. He says that usually he wouldn't worry, but tiger snakes are seen almost every day, so they need the help of the chickens. The more snakes, the fewer frogs, and if there are fewer frogs, there will be a problem, because the hero knows exactly what kind. Sonoa assumes that there will be more insects. That is the correct answer, and in that case the ecosystem balance will be disturbed. He suddenly realizes. This is exactly why they gathered. Umoto addresses Pochi and Yume, and asks if they can find red snakes with black spots. Those are tiger snakes, and because of them there are problems in the village. Pochi answers, and the man says that he understands everything. They will help them a lot if they can catch those snakes, and Pochi already starts stomping like in war. But the hero stops him and shouts that this cannot be done today. They will come for it another day. Yumoto notices that Sano has very fighting roosters. The old man will contact Shohei when he needs help. Pachi was supposed to start today, but that guy stopped him, so on the way back he kept pecking his owner. Yuma at that moment was not even thinking about help. Probably you told the chickens about snakes. They recognized the viper and the tiger snake, but did not understand the name of the third. Already from Sono's house, Ikawa calls and tells him about the snakes, and that the villagers asked his chickens to go hunting. The hero tensely asks the boy if he knows where such a number of snakes came from. The neighbor says with surprise that he cannot believe it. He didn't even watch the news where they talked about snakes and other pests. In the city beyond the mountains stood a large house, and its owner was engaged in pest extermination. But it seems he died last year. Later it turned out that he kept snakes as a hobby. Many of them were poisonous, and his sons, not knowing what to do with them, simply released them into the mountains. The late owner is probably turning in his grave. Who would have thought that his sons would do such foolish things? They could have warned the pet store seller, but it was already too late. The sons said they didn't know. The snakes were poisonous. Sano suddenly realized why there were so many snakes. Ikawa replied that it was quite possible. The news did not say exactly where they were released. But this man is sure. It's all because the population of tiger snakes has increased. The late owner kept quite a few of them. Now the hero finally knows for sure why there are so many snakes in this area. He asks if the villagers know about it, and I doubt it, because the case did not attract much attention. This was mentioned in the news only once, by accident. They might not have noticed. No one paid attention. And because of this, who would have thought? Esoset says that actually Rin just caught a habu, and the hero, not believing his ears, shouted, "Did I hear that right?" Sano recalls that this is a poisonous snake found only in Okinawa. It definitely shouldn't be here, and he says in horror that Aikawa is not mistaken at all. Aikawa says with relief that fortunately Ren and Tan are already catching up with them, so the habu is unlikely to head to the village, and the hero thanks him and promises to tell Yamoto. At first, the boy asks the old man if he has seen the news, and the old man simply replies, "I haven't seen anything." The man says that if there are only tiger snakes here, then it's still nothing, but the habu is very dangerous, and asks to bring chickens as soon as there is an opportunity. The hero agrees. Umoto adds, "If this is a real habu, he would very much like to see it. If, of course, it doesn't cause extra problems," and Sano promises to pass the request to Aikawa. The hero became so huge that he didn't even suspect that such a thing could happen. Yuma approaches to calm him down, and the boy thinks that zoo therapy really works. The boy loudly says that Yuma is a good boy. They start hugging. Seno thanks her, and she repeats his words. This makes him laugh, because he should be the one saying it. Mia is terribly scared because of the presence of the habu, and the hero replies that this snake was found in the west. He knows for sure. Tetsuki would handle this without problems, but at least he needed to be warned. Strange sounds began to come from the phone. The hero is calling the girl, but then Yuma grabs his phone, and the boy runs after her. He shouts that she could have broken the screen, and then angrily asks, "Why did you do this?" Sano glanced at the screen and said that you can't carry a smartphone like that, but the chick doesn't listen and asks to be hugged. He says that he is still angry, but his tone softens. He quietly asks her not to do that anymore. Shohei pets Yuma tells her that Katsuragi will call again and asks her not to interfere, apologizes for the disconnection, and Mia begs him to forgive her for causing the commotion. She says that he screamed so much that she did not catch a word. At that moment, Sino looks at the culprit of the situation. The girl asks fearfully if it is true that someone released the hub. The boy tries to calm her down. Maybe they are not at her mountain, but let her remember. They were seen in the west. Mia says in a trembling voice that she really hopes so. The hero asks if Tatsuki will understand what a snake looks like if she describes it. He tells her that tomorrow Yamoto will take Habu to his home and asks if she can come and watch. The girl agrees. Aikawa asks again. Did he understand correctly? Gabu needs to be shown to the big lizard Katsuragi. He says he will go with Rin and asks the hero to say that she is his jealous girlfriend who does not allow him to approach other women. No one considers it entirely fair to Katsuragi, but he understands. After the Stalker Aikawa incident, he is afraid of girls. That is why he uses Rin as a shield. After this, Shohei calls Yamoto and warns that Katsuragi will also drop by to take a look, and he agrees. He asks how the caretaker got hold of such a snake, and the hero explains. It was caught by a large snake he keeps at home. Yamoto suddenly understands everything. It turns out Aikawa also has his own pet, and he asks to bring it. Tsuno looks around and says that it is unlikely to succeed. Most likely not, because it is about 3 meters long. Then the man declares that he will come himself, and the hero replies that he will pass it on, but insists that they must definitely discuss it tomorrow. Aikawa asks if it is about his mountain, and Shohei explains that the man seemed very eager to see Ten. He can refuse. Anyway, they will discuss everything tomorrow, and the neighbor thanks him for the warning. They hear that he was on the phone all day today. For many years they allowed knocking on the door. He turns around and tensely asks himself if Tima has already returned from patrol. Sano asked to forgive him and said he would open the door now. If she continues, he will break them. Pochi and Yuma say he will break them. Tama was on guard, setting out on patrol, and the hero then closed the door. The next day, the hero thinks that his chickens are obedient. They always see him off when he leaves, and he wonders if Thomas will be very offended if he attaches a tracker to her. He approaches the house and says, "Hello," and Yamoto's wife replies, "Hello." She says he is just in time and asks him to help her gather wormwood. Sano agrees. The woman thanks him. She heard that there are many poisonous snakes here and she is scared, and the guy agrees. If they had chickens like his, there would be no problems. They not only catch snakes but also drive away pests, and ordinary chickens definitely do not chase wild boars. Aikawa arrives. The woman greets him and says that he is exactly as she imagined. The hero greets him. The neighbor asks if he understood correctly that they are gathering firewood. They tell him that they wanted to make tempura from it. It starts to rain. Sono notices this and says he will get wet, but Yamoto's wife reassures him. It's okay, we will go inside now. And Aikawa, meanwhile, begins to unload what he brought. The hero notices Rin and greets her. She responds by greeting him. He looks at her and thinks that her curls gently sway from the breath coming through the slightly open window. Few can surpass her beauty. If only her voice were calmer, she would be simply perfect. Then you can start picking on him, and he doesn't understand why at all. Aikawa shows the habu, and Sane immediately notices how big it is. The neighbor says about 2 meters. Rin brought it to him, and he didn't even know where or how to keep it. The woman says with horror that she wouldn't want to find such a horror in her home. Yamoto enters the room and sincerely thanks them for coming. Aikawa responds warmly. I ask the hero if I should bring him something to drink, and he agrees. The man notices the snake and says it is huge. At this time, Ikavi feels unwell. Sono tries to calm him, and Mia enters, apologizing for being late. But seeing Aikawa, she got very scared. The hero throws him a glance and thinks, he is taller. So why is he hiding like that? Shohei introduces them to each other, and they say they are glad to meet. Patsuki gets out of the car, and the hero also greets him. Then the lizard notices Rin. Sano looks at all the animals and feels like only monsters have gathered here, although maybe it's too early to say that. He has a bad feeling. The heroes sit down at the table, show the announcement that bamboo shoots are still being gathered. A heavy, oppressive atmosphere hangs in the room. Sano knows Katsuragi is only afraid of her boyfriend because she suffered from domestic violence, and Aikawa is afraid of every woman because of a stalker. Yamoto confidently told Aikawa that he definitely brought habu. Mia was terribly scared. The man says that his father did not exterminate them precisely because of this, so that they would return exactly like that. He asks if he can keep her as evidence. Aikawa agrees, but cannot believe that someone kept such a snake at home as a pet. Umoto explains, poisonous snakes can only be kept with permission. Most likely the previous owner just took her while he was working. The guys are shocked by such a foolish prank. It is not excluded that he kept several poisonous snakes. The news, it seems, said that they are going to catch them. Before the police react, it might already be too late. So for now they are essentially alone. Eventually they will deal with it. Umoto thanks Pochi. He has already gotten to work and caught a tiger snake. The man's wife says that the chicken is clever because he really caught it, but the snake is too big to fit in a bottle. So she chooses tempura. The hero is frightened by her determination. The chickens come up with an interesting way to catch snakes. Aikawa, thank you for the food. Everything was very tasty. He says he cannot keep his girlfriend waiting, so he asks her to take something for a snack. The woman suddenly remembers that his girlfriend is still sitting in the car, so she urgently needs to be given something. She gives him a gift and advises him to invite her to the house next time. The guy thanks her and promises to pass it on to her. Umoto asks, next time bring the snake that Aikawa keeps. The guy says that Ten is not always at home, so he is not sure if he can bring him. The man is surprised that the snake is roaming freely, but Aikawa reassures him. No, that's not the case. He was just allocated a large territory on the plot. He promises to bring it next time if they arrange a meeting in advance. Yamoto hopes they will see each other when the rainy season ends. Regarding Shohei, the hero promises that he will come and bring crayfish, and everyone agrees. The man asks to be informed if something happens to Aikawa. The guy agrees and says that if that man wants to visit, he can contact through Sano. Yamato gladly agrees. The hero catches Ren's gaze. He waves his hand at her, and she waves back in response. They leave just as Mia comes out of the house. Sano asks if Katsuragi is going home, and the embarrassed girl, blushing, says that it's already time and adds that it turns out Ikawa has a girlfriend. Shohei confirms this. She was in the passenger seat, and Mia says that, considering her past experiences, they better spend less time with Ikawa. She thinks that he clearly did not like her. Mia thanks the hero for today and says goodbye to him. Seno replies, "It's nothing." He thinks that he much prefers being a simple person who is not analyzed so deeply. The girl leaves. The hero hugs Yuma tightly and sincerely thanks her for everything. Then he notices that Pochi seems to be taking it too seriously. At that moment she runs out, with a new snake. Grandfather was not worried. He was happy like a child, and Sono had to catch Pochi. Of course, he pecked him several times, and now he smelled of snakes from a mile away, so getting hit became twice as insulting. Yamato says that tonight they will gather. He promises to show what he caught from Pochi, and then they will decide. Shohei shouts at Pochi to stop. They are going home. Just need to wash a little. When they got into the car, the hero felt that Pochi's beak smelled. She immediately started swearing, and he thought that he could also use a mouth rinse. On the way, the chicken didn't even peck him, but as soon as he got out of the car, Pochi rushed at him. Due to the rain, humidity rose in the house, so he will have to make charcoal. Umoto calls again and begs to borrow 2 chickens for tomorrow. He added that he wanted to talk about something else, so he asked to come right now. The hero agreed, returned to Yuma, and asked her to call Pochi and Tama and tell them that they are going to the old man. Sano packs things for the trip, returns to the chickens and thinks that all 3 no longer fit on the passenger seat, so one will have to ride in the back. He covers everything with a tarp, and the chickens happily jump into the back part. The hero says that only one person can ride in the passenger seat. And at that moment the beak hit him on the head, and the guy stands and doesn't understand why. Yumoto thanks the hero for coming. Pochi starts tapping with her paw, and the man tells him that there is no need to go hunting today. They can start tomorrow. Sano asks if he can sit in the garden, but Pochi attacks him again, and Yamato laughs and tells Shui that Pochi is clearly angry at him. The heroes enter the room. The man with a serious expression says that he showed the villagers the caught Pochi, a tiger snake, and the guy nods to show that he is listening attentively. Umoto continues. Yesterday, after they left, he noticed 2 more. Apparently there are more of them than they thought, and Sano, stunned by such a number, asks if they have already been caught. He says no, and the snakes hide in the grass. Probably last spring was their mating season. That's why there were so many of them, and they didn't even suspect it. The hero sharply interrupted him. The old man from the news died after spring. Yamato replied that most likely his son released the snakes while the man was still in the hospital, and it turned out he did not survive. Shohei says that is a terrible story. The man agrees and suggests returning to the topic. Tiger snakes mate before hibernation and give birth in summer. Sometimes they do it after awakening. The hero understands. In other words, they are doing it right now, and Umoto confirms this thought. If there are even more snakes, there will be more problems. The man bows and says that is exactly why they need 2 of Sano's chickens, asks to keep them for some time and assures, of course they will pay. The hero replies that he will not take money, but Umoto interrupts him. That won't do. He asks not to say that the hero needs to understand. His chickens are extremely important for life in the mountains, and now 2 of them will not be at home. This means that the hero himself or his grief may suffer, so he is paid for possible inconveniences. The man asks to take this seriously, and Sano, although uncertain, agrees. Umoto addresses Pochi and says, Saturday and Sunday are your days off, so start from tomorrow. The chicken agrees, and the hero thinks that Tama and Pochi will work starting tomorrow. Senu strictly explains to the chickens who can be touched and who cannot. Yamato asks the boy to come and pick them up later, on the weekend. He calls Pochi and Tama and promises to explain everything later. So no yelling that he is going home. The man turned around, said goodbye, and told them to call if anything was needed. The chickens went with him, and Shohei got so angry and thought they could take them. He didn't need them at home anyway. On the way, he stops by a store. The sellers thank him for the purchase, and he smiles and says that he bought tofu to fry at home. Try it with vegetables, but in a way that the chickens will also like. It is a wonderful dietary product, perfectly suited to oatmeal cookies. The hero returned home and told Yuma about it. She immediately rushed to meet him. Sano showed her the package and said he bought some treats. Yuma joyfully exclaimed that he had come. She wildly wags her tail. Shohei strokes her head and thinks that when she is happy, her tail becomes a deadly weapon. He remembers how the chickens wagged their tails when they knocked down a boar. It happened during Golden Week. When they were not so big yet, they grew very fast, but now he has come to terms with it. The hero looks around the garden and thinks anxiously. During the rainy season, plants grow wildly, chickens pull out weeds, but now there will be no chickens for some time. He only hopes that the weeds will not have time to grow too much. During the day, they went with Yuma to the river and then returned home and rested peacefully. Already in the evening, he remembered and quietly told her that today Pochi and Tama will not be there. Then they started bathing, so know things that, if they grow bigger, will no longer fit in one bath and will require buying more towels. Sho notices that it is quiet here. So quiet. Already in bed, he counts on his fingers. Today is Wednesday, and he needs to go for them on Saturday. All this time, he will be only with Yuma. He felt that she would be lonely. The hero was too used to the fact that the three of them were always together. In fact, they had become like family to him. Sano did not want to leave them there, but he could not say it directly. The boy asks Yuma to sleep with him. He falls asleep and thinks how pathetic he is right now. Umoto approached the hero and apologized for appearing so suddenly. Seno waved his hand. It's nothing. Asked if something had happened and suggested going into the house, but the man refused. He already had to leave. He says they can't sleep. Last night Pochi and Tama screamed terribly. The hero is surprised and recalls hearing that chickens, waking up in the middle of the night, scream very loudly. He had already forgotten what it was like. He hadn't heard them for a long time. Yamato says he doesn't care, but the neighbors are already starting to complain. He came with a request to leave them at the hero's place for the night and asked if I minded. Shohei replied that he generally didn't mind, and clarified if he understood correctly that they would see each other in the morning. The man agreed and asked to forgive him for this request. Sano says relaxedly that it's all right. Umoto leaves, promising the hero to give him some money for gas. The boy tries to refuse, but the man says he won't accept excuses. They should at least give something for his help. Shohei reluctantly agrees, thinking that this is very polite on the old man's part. He turns to the chickens and asks Pochi and Tama to return to the twilight. They answer him, running. The hero thought he would fall from exhaustion due to lack of sleep, but unexpectedly he was full of strength. Then Yamato returns. He forgot to give him the bag with homemade cucumbers. The boy takes the bag and thanks him. He asks again if the man will come around 8 in the morning. He confirms and apologizes again for the inconvenience, and Sano says it doesn't bother him. The hero watches with a smile as the car drives away. He is sure that nothing bad will happen. Probably he just had a nightmare. That's exactly what he thought before falling asleep. In the middle of the night, Pochi and Tama suddenly screamed, and the hero barked at them to be quiet in response. The boy promises to leave the door open, so that when they finish screaming, they can calmly return to the house. Late at night, the chickens scare even the owl with their cries. In the morning, Sono comes across Pochi and Thomas. They are dozing near the door. He wonders, haven't they been running all night? The hero calls the chicks by their names and says that they need to be washed first. He knew it would be like that. They are about to shake fiercely, so it's good that he hasn't changed clothes yet. After breakfast, they set off for the village, and Sano says he wants to sleep. Yuma wants something from the hero. He suspects that she wants him to go alone. The boy thinks he won't be able to resist that look. He wants to ask his uncle how Pochi and Tama are doing. They travel in the rain, and Shohei recalls that last night he drove the chickens outside. It also seemed to be raining then, and now he realizes he shouldn't have done that. Yamato comes out, greets them, and thanks them for coming, then asks how Pochi and Tama spent the last 2 days. He thinks and says that the day before yesterday they were in the rice fields, catching small snakes there and even found their nest. The boy is stunned at how quickly it happened. He can't believe the entire field was cleared in just 2 days. Yamato asks what the matter is. The hero turns to the chickens and says he doesn't even know what to say. Their rice fields are simply enormous. Although there are few farmers, they usually cultivate at least 2,000 tsubo, and 1 tsubo is approximately 3.3 square kilometers. Sano assumed that the chickens probably ran around only 1 mountain, but there are 2 here, and even 1 mountain is about 30,000 tsubo. The hens run a huge distance in a day. Isn't that enough for them? The boy said this to the man. He says that because of this, he believes their work should be expanded. For example, allowing them to inspect not just 1 house but 5, or giving them the ability to check not only their mountain. The cries of Yamato. Now he understands. This is how chickens can release their excess energy. But first, this needs to be discussed with the neighbors, he suggests. Let's talk again in a couple of days, because it won't work out immediately. Sano waved it off. It's nothing. His own fault for suggesting it so suddenly. Then the uncle takes Pochi and Tama to the farm, where work is already waiting for them. Umoto's wife apologizes, saying she burdened the hero. The boy replies that it's not a problem, and that he should have thought about it earlier. The woman is surprised. He has become so serious. So the hero and Yukin set off, while Shohei worries whether she will be alright, since she is accompanying him. She must not waste her energy, so he says she doesn't need to be with him all the time and suggests she play with the other chicks. When he said this, she packed him up. In the evening, as agreed, Pochi and Tama were brought to Sano. He, of course, was glad that tomorrow they would head deeper into the mountains, but that night he again could not fall asleep. Unfortunately, it rained again outside, and he could not take them out, so the boy listened to their cries all night. It was painful. In the morning, Pochi and Tama go outside, shouting joyfully. Sano thinks they cried all night. Now, since they will be running in the mountains all day, they need to be well fed. He wonders where chickens get such strength. It is raining again, and the boy hopes nothing will happen to them, while the chickens continue to fuss and cry. Sano sees that a lot of water has gathered here because of the rain. If left like this, mold will soon appear, and the hero still has a bunch of tasks. He harvests the crop, tastes it, and smiles, noting that it is tasty and juicy. The hero offers it to Yuma. She happily agrees and opens her mouth full of teeth. While she is nearby, Sano constantly thinks about whether she will bite his finger. He only hopes that it won't happen. During the day, Puchitama walk in the mountains and almost never appear at home. But just the thought that they are somewhere nearby immediately makes his soul lighter. Now they are climbing to the very top. Shohei is confident. If something happens, Yuma will cover him. So there is no point in worrying. Here he realizes something. The hero asks if she really grew like this for his safety. He will not say that all this is not as strange to him as Rin's story from the Ikawa clan, and yet, the stranger it became, the calmer he felt. So he does not stretch out, only takes a deep breath. They have already finished all the work for today, so why not take a little nap after lunch? The hero notices that Yuma seems to still have to get used to her bigger body. By darkness, Pochi and Tama, who ran all day, returned home dirty, but thanks to their runs in the mountains, he was finally able to fall asleep that day. The chicks are growing right before his eyes. Sunday morning came, and the hero feels. It seems today will be sunny. He tells the chickens that the forecast is rain-free, but doesn't manage to report it because he catches the gaze of Pochi's. He wonders what that gaze means. He has some strange feeling. Puchi and Tama, as always, went to the city, while Yuma wandered around, constantly growing and shrinking. So no one thought that she was just trying to spend extra energy. In any case, that probably wouldn't have been enough. Today no rain is expected, so Sano decides to visit the cemetery. If he doesn't take care of it, the ancestors will be angry. That's exactly why he lives on this mountain. Shohei apologizes for not visiting for a long time. The hero finishes cleaning, sits on the grass, and thoughtfully thinks that, honestly, he really hasn't been here for a long time. He recalls that during Obon there are always many people at the cemetery, and even at the end of the festival he will hardly manage to meet relatives. What a pity. If he takes the chickens to the city, the family will simply be shocked. There will probably be no end to the questions. Even if he goes by train, the trip will take 3 hours. There are no other options here, and he doesn't want to sit in the car all the time. Tama repeats the last word after him. Sano is so surprised that he is bewildered. He doesn't believe what he just said. Can wash away the chatter really be true? He asks Tommy to answer if he can speak. The chicken repeats that word again. Shohei is happy that he really can speak and wonders what's wrong with his voice, and runs joyfully to hug her. But she pushes him away and starts pecking. Sano shouts that it hurts and apologizes. He wonders if she thought he was angry. The hero just wanted to hug her. Evening is approaching. Shokai suggests going home. And at that moment his uncle calls. The boy picks up the receiver and asks what happened. Umoto nods. Nothing special. Just talked with the neighbors, and they allowed the chickens to roam over a large area. He promises to tell all the details tomorrow, so he says, "Don't thank me," and says goodbye. He thinks that this will be best. Finally, they will have somewhere to release their energy. Then a message comes from Ikawa. The neighbor writes that he is going to the city tomorrow and asks if the hero will go with him, and he agrees. So don't expect it to be sunny tomorrow either. Old Umoto greeted Shoki and sincerely apologized for making him work so much. The hero got out of the car and said that his chickens still need to be relocated, so there is nothing terrible in that work. The man noted that these are not just chickens. The boy thinks that this time Pochi and Tama are going hunting. Today they are inspecting every patch of the field. Umoto says that their eggs are tasty. The boy suddenly realized that those were snake eggs. The old man did not even imagine that it would turn out to be so tasty. You wouldn't say from the outside. So they think they won't be able to start selling them. The hero summed up that the grandfather wanted to keep the number of snakes under control. The grandfather confirmed everything and added that they should not be exterminated completely. He announced their further plan. First, they need to catch them, and only then decide whether to release them or not. Sho froze in surprise at how thoroughly the old man had thought everything through. The grandfather also suggested taking the tiger snake. It is not poisonous, and it also eats all kinds of rodents, so it is better to leave it alone. But he will not allow poisonous snakes to reproduce. The young man believes that there is no coexistence with snakes, and all this is only for the convenience of people. After all, people rule over everything. Shohei said that it was time for him to go. If he is delayed, he will definitely get in touch. The old man asked him to call if anything happens. He ordered Tammy and Pochi to obey their uncle, but they turned away from him and did not listen. This upset the boy. The man laughed and noticed that the chickens liked him. The hero is sure that the chickens do not respect him at all. Yuma was sleeping on the car seat next to her. She snuggled up to the boy. He hugged her and said that she was so sweet. He gently stroked her head and thanked her. Now he felt good. Then he wrote to someone that he was already on the way. He cast one last glance at the chickens and thought, "Isn't he the boss here?" It seemed he was about to cry. Pochi and Tama went to destroy the eggs. Tama found them and suddenly wanted to eat them. But then he remembered the old man and decided to take them to him. The hero stood and waited for Ikawa and Rin. They arrived and apologized for making him wait. They set off for the city. Getting out of the car, the boy asked Yuma to be a good girl and sit quietly. He couldn't take such a big chicken with him anywhere, just as Ikawa couldn't take Rin with him. The hero noticed some bag in the neighbor's hands and asked what it was. He replied that it was work clothes and wanted to take them to the laundry because the smell wouldn't come out after washing at home. The hero noticed with surprise. After washing, the clothes had no smell at all. Ikawa explained that they wash there at high temperatures. This kills the smell. The boy realized he didn't need a conditioner but hot water. Bleach doesn't suit him. It can harm the chickens, but hot water is unlikely to cause problems. Shohei left the store with full bags and was pleased, thinking how successfully they had shopped. Suddenly he saw Ikawa sitting in the car and realized with surprise. He had been waiting for him all this time. The man was lying on the Rin's shoulder, hiding his face. The hero approached and apologized for making him wait. At first, Ika just said one word. There. And Shohei didn't understand what she was talking about at all. Then the man said that she was there. He meant the girl who had been stalking him earlier. The young man was surprised. He realized that this was Akawa's former stalker, and the neighbor was already spinning his own assumptions in his head. But he recognized her by face and posture. Shu said that although it looks like that, he understands his fear and suggested going home. But Ikawa asked him to check who is standing there. The hero agreed. And although he thinks that this man needs to talk to a lawyer about this stalking, he himself understands why Ikawa asks to approach that girl. Rin tightly pressed Ikawa to herself. She said that he does not look like himself at all. Shu agreed with her. Ikawa was acting too strangely. They need to be careful. Rin suggested just calling. The man looked away and sighed heavily. He thanked Rin and said he was going to the store with Seno. She asked him to return immediately, and the girl, addressing the hero, said she was counting on him. He gently stroked his head and whispered that he would come soon. They were sure that everything was over. They would return to the mountains, and Ikawa would call there. But when they left the store, suddenly a man and a woman appeared before the heroes. The woman bowed and said that her name was Kano Yuko. Ikawa's face froze in shock. The girl introduced herself as Kana Yuko and said she was glad to meet her. Akawa stood trembling. Someone noticed this and touched his shoulder. He came to and asked the girl to remind him who they were. She replied that her name was Kano, Senku's older sister. Ito Senkuhu. The girl wanted to offer her deepest apologies. The heroes went to a cafe and the woman asked with curiosity who was with Mr. Ikawa. He answered that it was his friend. After that incident, it became difficult for him to talk to girls her age, so he accompanied him. The man and woman lowered their heads and quietly said they were very sorry. That man next to Kano is her older brother. Silence hung between them. So, here is the matter. At the end of last month, the same girl got married, but it turned out that before the wedding she intended to find Ikawa and apologize to him. Unfortunately, she only roughly knew where Ikawa lived, so she could not meet him in person. But last month she thought she met a person resembling him, and asked that person through her brother and sister to deliver a letter of apology to Ikawa. She actually saw Ikawa last month. Kanawa says they have visited this city more than once. This is the third time. If they had not found him this month, they would have delivered the letter through a lawyer. They could have delivered it through a lawyer. But they were worried whether Ikawa would agree. He took a deep breath and said that he would not accept it. He did not need her apologies. It would have been enough if they simply had not contacted him. The brother and sister sincerely and terribly apologized. The man said he did not need their apologies. He asked them to tell him that he was glad she got married. Kano thanked the man. Sho thinks that this is a very strange story. The criminal quietly got married, and Ikawa remained living in fear of women. In such moments you realize, it is better to inflict pain than to feel it yourself. The heroes said goodbye to the family members of his pursuer. Ikawa watched with relief as they left. Now he did not have to fear that someone was watching him. But this does not at all mean that his fears are over. He is still afraid of girls. Sho said that it might be psychosomatic and offered to help. He replied that there was no point. He was already causing him so many problems. Ikawa sighed. Perhaps it was time to return. The hero asked if he was sure. The young man himself also doubted. Maybe someone was watching them. And what if these people had deceived them? Then Sono remembered that he needed to put the groceries in the freezer, and they went to the cars. Rin looked angrily at the boy and said that he was late. Ikawa began to apologize and make excuses, and the girl said that she was angry. Shohei. He tensed up, glanced at the neighbor, and turned back to Yuma, apologizing for being late. She turned away from him and deliberately took offense. The boy began to apologize and said that he had to accompany Ikawa. He couldn't just leave him. The chicken repeated again. He wouldn't be able to do it. The young man hugged the animal and thanked her for worrying about him. Just in case, they made a few circles before returning to the village. Ikawa immediately called the lawyer and asked to confirm the whole story. The man replied that he would get an answer by night. The neighbor immediately felt that this was related to her. Shohei thought it was good that they hadn't crossed paths. But if she had approached Ikawa, everything could have become much worse. The man thanked Shino for today and said that he had just been sitting next to him. Ikawa admitted that he felt much calmer next to him. Without him, he would have run away like a coward. Now it seemed to him that he should try to convince her. But then Ikawa would never have learned the truth. When they left, the hero apologized to Yuma. She was probably tired from the whole day spent in the car. Arriving home, the chicken jumped out of the car and said she was tired. The boy thanked her. She began to walk around and stretch. Shohei turned to her and said he would step aside. The chicken pecked him. Umoto brought the chickens and enthusiastically praised them for their good work. The young man was glad that Tom and Pochi at least stretched their legs, while Yuma had to sit all day. The old man said goodbye to the boy and handed him some package. This time, mandarins in a jar. The chickens, of course, will eat them, but they are in sugar, and the hero does not want to have problems with his teeth later. The chickens did not show their noses last night, but he still kept his eyes open, and even if they started to show off, he would do nothing. If it weren't for the rain, he would have taken them outside to fight. Ikawa, in the middle of the night. Imagine, that stalker really got married last month and now lives far from here. Ikawa, who wants to be left alone, told the lawyer that he would not accept that letter. The neighbor said that he felt better. Shohei listened and was silent. He thought that Ikawa did not want to see her face and have anything to do with anyone. The hero did not want to meddle in other people's affairs, but he did not understand him. But he is not Icarus. He has every right to decide for himself what to do. Looking at Pochi and Yuma, the uncle says that they are wandering nicely, although last week they barely moved, and then asked how the night went. The hero replied that they slept well. True, he does not know what will happen today. The old man said that the chickens helped him a lot. They only found 3 snakes yesterday. They came across vipers, poisonous snakes. Life in the village is also a kind of survival. Grandfather said they caught them in as many as 6 fields. He thinks there is no point in checking more. They won't catch anyone else now. The hero asked if the collector had poisonous snakes brought from abroad. He replied that he seems to have some. And where did he get them from? But since they are dangerous, you can't just release them. You can keep these snakes if you fill out the papers. Grandfather heard that someone was recently bitten. They say this viper bites someone once a year so that they don't pay attention to it. The main thing is that there are no foreign snakes here. The hero decided to immediately warn his chickens. He told them that if they find a strange snake, they must bring it. Understanding their owner, they dispersed. The hero left the chickens and sincerely wished the old man good luck. Shoei realized that Thomas did not want to go with him and pushed him in the back. Aikua invited him to visit him. Then the hero asked Tam if she would go with him, but she did not answer. He wanted to joke, but she started pecking. And still, Tam does not like Rin and Ten. And while they were arguing, suddenly it started to rain. Lately it has been pouring constantly. The hero would gladly walk around the outskirts, but the ground soaks through him, so he does not do it, and Tama will go on patrol. The mud does not stop her. Sho decided to check how many abandoned houses were here. Without people, the house was slowly falling apart. It would be better to demolish it before the rainy season, but money is needed for that too. He thinks he will talk to the elder later. The hero turned to Tama and said he would go inspect this house, and the chicken herself could wander around the outskirts for now. She did not answer. Sano thanked her and thought that although she was rude, she was actually kind. Could she really be a tsundere? After these words, Toma began pecking the hero in the back. He did not understand how she knew what tsundere was. While the hero was inspecting the house, he received a message from Katsuragi. The girl sent a photo of a snake's tail and asked if that snake was poisonous, because it seemed Tatsuki had already eaten it. He could not understand how to recognize a snake by the stump of its tail. He wrote to her that he would find out the answer. If he succeeded, he would reply late in the evening. It seemed the snake invasion had no end. The guy persistently searched the internet for a photo of Katsuragi, but in vain. He found nothing, so he decided to show the picture to his uncle, since he was soon going to Yuma to pick up Pochi. Umoto looked at the photo and said that you can't tell right away. He was afraid that if it was a poisonous snake, that huge lizard might not greet him, and added that the girl might bring him the stump tomorrow. When the hero told Katsuragi that Tatsuki might be poisoned, she almost fainted, and the young man understood her perfectly. His chickens had previously eaten poisonous snakes and were fine. He thought, after visiting Ikawa, I will visit her tomorrow, laughed and added that he feels like Mr. Popular. Then he looked at his chickens. They looked at him reproachfully, and then they completely turned away. Shokei tried to reach Yuma, the only one who values him, but she, unfortunately, turned away. The hero thought that at least Yuma would never leave him. The young man realized that he was completely unpopular. The main thing was that the chickens wouldn't go crazy again. That was the most important thing. The next day, the boy brought 2 girls to his uncle, Tam and Yuma. A long road awaited them ahead, but first they would wait for Narayama. Yamato asked Sano how his patrolling was going. Sano replied that nothing had changed yet, and they were heading towards the mountain. Suddenly, Katsuragi appeared, greeted them, and apologized for being late. The men greeted her warmly. The girl extended a major with a snake tail. The old man looked closely and said that it seemed this snake was not from here. He asked permission to take its tail for himself, and the girl agreed and added that she just needed to get rid of it. The uncle apologized to the lady for having to travel so far, and she also began to apologize because she could not help at all. The old man went away, the chickens rustled in the garden, and Tetsuki stood by the car. Sano and Mia were sitting on the veranda. Mia asked the boy about his plans for today, and he replied that he planned to go to the western mountain to meet with Mr. Ikawa. The girl noted that they often see each other. The hero confirmed this and added that they were going to the city together. Katsuragi lowered her head and said that she was jealous of them. She is a fool because of love and can't even talk to him, and the young man realized that she was not interested in him at all. Then she asked him about his plans for tomorrow. He replied that he might just take the chickens from the elder and pick them up. She invited him to lunch, and the hero finally understood that she was actually not interested in him. And so the hero set off to Ikawa together with Pochi. He doesn't care that she doesn't consider him her boyfriend. Katsuragi is cute, yes, but he doesn't want to flirt with her. He can't imagine her as a wife or in his mind at all. In general, he doesn't imagine her at all. The hero turned to Pochi and asked him to catch some crayfish as a gift for Rinton's visit. The chicken did not respond, and the young man thought that after heavy rains the rivers had overflowed. Of course, he wouldn't be able to. But Pochi said he would catch it. Looking at the animal, the young man thought that it had terribly sharp teeth. They decided to return and catch it. Despite the strong current, he caught 6 of them in a few minutes. Wiping Pochi, the hero thought that first they catch crayfish and then poisonous snakes. Walking on the road to Ikawa's house, the young man suddenly noticed his snakes. He joyfully greeted Rin and Ten. Pochi had already jumped out of the car and was rushing to the friends. The hero thought that he had been too cheeky by opening the car door without permission. Shohei asked the snakes if they would mind if his chicken pecked their insects, and the snakes replied that they did not object. Pochi froze in place. Aikawa came out and greeted Sano. Shu began to apologize for being late. He and Pochi were just about to bring crayfish, but as soon as he started speaking, the chicken pecked him. It seems Pochi pecked him because he did not like that he wanted to blame him for being late. The hero handed him a bucket with several crayfish, and he sincerely thanked him for the gift. The men chatted about the weather being not very good, but the most important thing was that he was okay. Rin and Ten thanked Sano, and Pochi even grimaced indignantly. The boy mentally apologized to Aikawa's animals. Pochi was still not used to big snakes. The neighbor said that he himself would like to visit him. The young man agreed and suggested meeting the day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, Shohei invited Katsugari to visit. He noticed that Sono was very popular. The hero turned away and said that the girl did not even consider him a man. Catching crayfish, Pochi looks intently into the water. He sees how few crayfish he caught and flares up with rage. Aikawa spoke about the luxurious table. The The hero asked him if he always cooks like that. He replied that he only does so when guests come. The young man remembered that Ikoa used to hunt, so when the season comes, he will have to invite him to go together. Ikoa says that from spring to summer no one usually comes to him, so his skills have rusted, and in general people hardly climb this mountain, and the young man thanked him for the treat. He said that Sano helped him a lot, so there was nothing to worry about, and the man was sincerely grateful to him for accompanying him to the city. Sho realized that he was no longer needed in this city. Akava said that Rin feels affection for Yuma, and Shohei, waiting for them in the car in the middle of the city, suddenly realized they had already become friends. Probably they were having their interracial girlish chats. The boy is glad that this whole story has finally ended. Aikava agreed. Now he can live peacefully, and he has plenty of time during the day. So keep in mind, there are plenty of empty houses here, and the animals need to be taken to the veterinarian to be vaccinated. Aikawa said that their case is special. These are animals. The heroes had a good talk. Only they did not touch on his sad thoughts about Katsuragi. He had already forgotten about her on the way to Aikawa. The hero took his Tama and Yuma to their grandfather. They spent 2 whole days combing the rice fields in search of poisonous snakes. If there are no snakes, great, but if there are, the chickens will just eat them. They not only exterminate these scoundrels, they also save someone's life, or something like that. Tomorrow Pachi and Tama will go on a reconnaissance mission. Today Yuma and he set off for Katsuragi, and the sky hung with leaden clouds. It seems she hires peasants to clean her mountain. Katsuragi met her neighbor and thanked him for coming. She held a basket of peas in her hands, so she did not greet Tatsuki and rushed to help Katsuragi. Mia smiled, thanked the boy, and said she would prepare tea for them now. He was sitting on the veranda. Yuma approached him. The hero told her that she could go play. She bowed her head and looked at him. He gently stroked her head. Every day he and Yuma bathed. Now her feathers are so clean. But Pochi and Tama are also not dirty at all. They clean their feathers with sand or water, and if they get dirty, he will wash them. The boy wondered if they really needed to be washed so often. They apparently did not complain, so everything was fine. Katsuragi came and apologized for the wait. The boy thanked her and treated her to rice cookies, and Mia in response thanked him, said she would go prepare something to eat, and asked him to wait. Yuma and Shohei sat on the veranda. They enjoyed the Japanese summer. Katsuragi returned, apologized for being late, and brought cold soup. Just the thing that saves you in such heat. The boy began to eat, and it turned out to be incredibly tasty, and the girl was happy. Mia offered the hero green pepper. He agreed. Mia asked about that snake tail, and the hero replied that nothing was clear yet. The girl hopes it is an ordinary snake. They sat silently. Katsuragi treated Yuma to something. The girl said she had lived here for more than 2 years, but she met Aikawa quite recently. She heard a lot about him, but did not expect that he would turn out to be such a handsome man. Her hero understands her. He thinks that if she asked him to help them get closer, he would refuse. Although the stalker problem is solved, Aikawa is still afraid to talk to that girl. Maya looked at the boy and asked if he also considers Aikawa handsome. The boy felt that something was wrong with him, but replied that he looks like an idol. Mia agreed with him and began to tell how her heart beats wildly when they are together. You can't be the kind of girl who falls in love so easily, but he has such a cute face. She is here to get rid of her foolishness. That is why she so desperately wants to protect her friendship with Aikawa. Yuma and Sano froze in shock. They do not understand at all what the girl is talking about. She asks him, do not misunderstand her. She is not a yoi girl. She would be simply happy if they were friends. Oh, what a wonderful friendship. Shohei does not understand what she is talking about. He said that they visit each other. She asked the boy what they talked about. Probably something interesting. The young man remembered that recently he had spent the night at his place. The girl was impatiently waiting for details and approached him. She leaned close to him and asked about the fact that they went to the city together. In a certain sense, the hero was even afraid for Katsuragi, but most importantly, she was cheerful. During the conversation, she did not interrupt him even once, and when he told that at night in Aikawa he got terribly drunk and barely remembers anything, even that story amused her. When the hero left, the girl waved goodbye to him and thanked him for visiting. The young man was driving and thinking about what the word Yahweh girl meant. He brought home a bunch of green peppers. That's how many she grows. Shohei was barely holding on from fatigue when Ikawa wrote to him and asked him to come tomorrow. Besides the fact that all he had left was to pick up and deliver chickens, the hero had no other business, so he agreed. Aikawa will come to them tomorrow, so he decided to stop by the village for groceries and also take work Pochi and Tamata. The young man thinks he should treat Ikawa to something tasty, not just meat. As a neighbor, he will not set the table but will manage perfectly with ordinary dishes. Immediately, he received a call from the poultry farm. They offered to try their new meat and asked to cook chicken at home. The woman asked the boy if he had already had lunch. He answered yes, and then thought that he should endure and eat at their place. The boy was given a whole chicken, and inside were hidden rice, Chinese dates, chestnuts, and other ingredients for soup. The man asked his wife, "Why all this?" She replied that it was for the Korean dish samgyetang, and the boy asked about the price in surprise. The man whispered that he was just a reviewer. The hero noted that such a thing would cost 1,000 yen. The woman gently calmed the young man. "Don't worry. This chicken was unusual, and the opinion of a young man like him also mattered greatly to them." Sho decided that next time he would definitely bring a treat. He was given a sheet with the recipe, after which he looked into the grocery store and went to the uncle. The children froze in amazement upon seeing the huge chicken. Sanao asked them not to shout, otherwise it would peck. The boys asked for permission to touch it. The boy allowed it, but asked to handle it more gently. The children, of course, were surprised by Yuma's size, but they did not turn away from him at all. It seemed that in this village both adults and children were tolerant. Shu came to pick up Pokyantamu Shajur and sincerely praised them for a job well done. The old man greeted the boy. He asked for permission to take some vegetables from him. Umoto gave permission and said that the chickens today found 3 Eastern copper coins, so he could take as many vegetables as he wanted. Sano was stunned by the number of pests. The man slid a huge basket of vegetables to the hero. Shu thought that now he would definitely have to cook. He asked his aunt to teach him how to cook. He smiled and said that at home he had a bunch of green peppers. His aunt shared a Chinese recipe, and he also learned how to use oyster sauce in cooking. The hero asked Pochi and Yuma to go hunting tomorrow, but at that moment Tama approached him. The boy asked what happened. She inquired about Aikawa. The boy replied that he would come to them tomorrow. Tama said that she was going to work. He leaned toward the boy's face and began to say that Tama was going to work. The hero felt that everything was happening too fast because Tama had terrible, incredibly sharp things. The young man understood everything. As soon as he said that Aikawa would visit them, Tama immediately asked to work instead of Yuma. She just couldn't stand Rin that much. He asked Tama if she really did not want Rin to come to visit them. She suddenly started pecking at the boy. Shu shouted that he understood, and then announced that tomorrow he and Pochi would go hunting. Tama was proud of herself. Sano returned to Yuma and asked if she could manage without work. She pressed against the boy. It was a sign of agreement. He thought how sweet she was. And so the preparation for Ikawa's reception ended. The next day he left Pochi and Tama under the care of their uncle. He asked many about the snake's tail, but no one answered him. It seems tomorrow he will take this tail to the veterinarian in the city of S. I guess the doctor's name is Kimoto. It's raining cats and dogs. Well, that's good. Renu will find it easier to crawl. The hero prepared crushed cucumbers and stewed Chinese cabbage. The first dish, samgyetang soup. The second, that Chinese dish he was taught yesterday. The boy was working in the garden and suddenly noticed a car had arrived. Aikawa greeted Sano and remarked on the northern weather. The hero agreed with him. Rin and Ten got out of the car. Sho assumed that they were probably cramped in the car, and Aikawa agreed. That is a problem, but Ten also rarely rides with them. The man asked Yuma if Rin and Ten could catch insects in her yard. The snakes said they wanted crayfish. The neighbors suggested going to the river. Shohei asked them to be careful. It was raining heavily now. Aikawa allowed Rin and Ten to catch crayfish. The snakes began skillfully catching crayfish. The others watched from the shore. The hero could not believe how easily they caught them. Aikawa told them that he and Sano would stay at home. They agreed and stayed in the water. Shohei does not know how many crayfish they will eat together, and even if they eat them all, it's not so bad. At least there will be more fish. Aikawa immediately recognized the soup the boy was cooking and noted that the smell would linger afterward, to which Shohei replied that he would just turn the exhaust fan on full blast. The neighbor admitted that he was trying their cuisine for the first time, and Sano asked not to expect much. He especially should not set the bar too high in his mind. The hero finished preparing the dish and said it was called Ding Sangxian. Aikawa smelled an incredible aroma. It seemed to be just vegetables, but the dish looked luxurious. They decided to start eating, while Tan and Ren were still in the river. Aikawa sincerely thanked the boy for the food. The hero opened the window and said it smelled strongly of Korean and Chinese food. The neighbor asked if he really bought samgyetang at the poultry farm. The boy confirmed and said the product was still being tested. It seemed that his fate depended on his feedback. The man said he also liked Sangxian. Many vegetables go wonderfully with rice. The boy agreed with him. Kowao liked the dinner. But the hero thinks that this is not enough for hospitality. The neighbor asked if the hero really visited Katsurugi yesterday. He confirmed everything. He added that she was lonely, so she invited him over. Akava understands her. Living alone is convenient but sad, so sometimes he invites him over. Then he asked about those half-ruined houses. The hero replied that he had completely forgotten about them. If they are not demolished, someone might move in, and that would be bad. But to demolish them, a lot of other things need to be done first. Something tells him that demolishing houses is not a cheap pleasure, so they still stand and occasionally collapse. It seems there are many like that here, and it worries the boy. Itzy was told that he can ask for help from his hunter friends. If they are allowed to hunt in this area during the working season, they can help demolish the houses. Shohei said that sounds good, but warned that they might accidentally shoot his chickens. But they can only be allowed on the part of the mountain behind the house. And then there is only one thing left: to forbid the chickens from going there. Among the hunters, there are many boys who have nowhere to train, so he will open the northern slope of the mountain for them. The hero was puzzled. How can there be hunters without mountains? Akava explained that these are licensed hunters who simply live near the mountains and watch over the integrity of their fields. Sano agreed. It is better to open the slope behind the house for them, although it was hard to climb there. Akava suggested going up through his mountain because the path is shorter, and he was sure the hunters would not mind. Before making a decision, the young man wanted to consult with the chickens. Akava agreed with him. They also needed to thank the hunter because their help would be a great support. The young man is not sure how everything will end, but sincerely hopes for the best. He talked with Akava for a long time, and it immediately became clear. They are on the same wavelength. The boy looked at the clock and thought that the chickens would arrive any moment. He told Akava that the chickens would arrive very soon. The man understood that Yamoto would bring them. They ran out of the house. The young man thought they had a problem. Ten and Rin. Uncle, of course, wanted to see Ten himself, but if he noticed Rin, who had been hiding the lower part of her body all this time, it would have been very bad. They went out and immediately noticed Yuma. He asked her not to let Rin in and to call Tan, because Uncle wanted to see him. Yuma tilted her head and looked questioningly at the boy. He repeated once again that Rin must not be allowed in there, but Tan should be brought. She replied that she understood and rushed to the snakes. The hero thought that, it seemed, he had explained everything clearly. Aikawa was stunned. She understood something. Sho thinks that if these were ordinary domestic animals, they would not understand his words, but his chickens are completely different. Yuma was walking to the river, and the hero thought that he cared too much about his chickens. Shui and Akawa exchanged glances upon hearing the sound of an approaching car. The neighbor said it was close, and they quietly sighed with relief. Umoto noticed Akawa and realized that he had come to visit him. Shohei confirmed everything and sincerely thanked Uncle for bringing the chickens. Poki and Tama got out of the car and began looking around. The old man asked about the girl who was usually with the master of the Western Mountain, and he was told that she worked in the field. Aikawa said that he came with his kite. The old man noticed that he heard something huge was with him and asked where he was, and Sano replied that Yuma went to look for him, so they would probably return soon. Pochi approached the host. The boy instantly realized they were trying to calm him down, and called them closer to dry off. And then they noticed Yuma and Tan approaching, and that boy enthusiastically praised the chicken. The snake loomed over the chief. Umoto recoiled. The size of the snake shocked him, and Aikawa simply said it was his pet snake. He asked him to come. The old man wondered how many meters it was. The neighbor replied that he hadn't measured, but probably about 4 meters. The uncle noted that it was heavy. The man only nodded in confirmation. You can't carry such a thing by hand. After all, its head alone weighs that much. Ten laid his head on Ikawa's shoulder. He gently stroked him, and Yamato noticed that he was obedient and clearly loved him. Shohei has plenty of chickens. Maybe they will help him with the stall at the festival. Sho asked if the villagers themselves stand behind the stalls at the holidays. The old man confirmed this, but most people behind the stalls are not like that at all. Only old people live in the village, and they don't have the strength to sit behind the stall all day. If the neighbor is not mistaken, at the festival they will carry a palanquin. The uncle asked him to inform us if there are volunteers. That is, everything is voluntary, no one will force you. Yamato asked Shohei to help with the preparation for the festival. Shohei agreed and said, "Call me when you need me." The elder decided to go home and promised that as soon as he found out which snake the story belonged to, he would tell everything immediately. The hero thanked him and said goodbye. When the elder left, Shohei and Ikawa exhaled deeply. Ikawa noted that it was good he noticed. The old man would come soon, so he admitted that it was his fault. He got too carried away with the conversation. They remembered Rin and decided to call her. The hero asked Pochi to go and bring her. When Ikawa left, Tama immediately started pecking. It seemed she did not want to see Ten and Rin at all. How much must one hate snakes? It is scary to approach Tama. He called the poultry farm and thanked Matsuyami for samgyutan, said it was tasty. But the smell still needed improvement and did not forget to add that Ikoa also liked it, sir. He was told that the remarks would be taken into account and they would call back later. Saturday evening, someone called the hero. The old man told him that it was a story about rattlesnakes. Yumoto confirmed everything and said that it might not be her at all. The boy thanked him and it flashed through his mind. They do not live in Japan. He must tell this to Katsuragi, but he does not want to scare her too much. According to police veterinarians, the businessman took poisonous snakes for himself and kept them as pets. So how did it happen that they were irresponsibly released into the surrounding fields? It is unlikely that the entrepreneur could have predicted his death, but he must have thought about what would happen to the snakes when he was gone. Of course, the chickens could have pecked him to death, and they are not eternal either. On one hand, these snakes grew up in the room, and then they were left without an owner. You think about it and feel sorry for them. What will happen to his chickens? Then he loudly called out the names of the chickens and said that he would live long, but they just turned away. The boy thought that it was somehow cruel. Only Yuma pressed herself to him. He shouted her name and hugged her. Only she understands him. At such moments, he always feels that way. But Pochi and Thomas should also understand him. They ran up the mountain to vent their anger, and because of them, there were no animals left around the houses. Earlier he had seen raccoons and wild boars, but now they could not be found anywhere. Then the hero noticed movement in the bushes and froze in fear. But it turned out to be Pochi with a snake in his beak. The boy told him to eat it. He and Yuma slowly walked around the fields, looked at the river, and considered what to do about the road. He understands that rails are needed for the attack, but this is his territory, so he will have to buy everything himself. Shohei told the nervous Katsuragi about the snake's tail, and she immediately called him and shouted into the phone what they should do now, because it was a rattlesnake. The boy moved the phone away from his ear so as not to go deaf, and asked the girl to calm down, saying that she just needs to stay close to Tatsuki, and everything will be fine. They are unlikely to help her with the snakes. He advised trying to persuade Tatsuki to look for them for her, and she replied that she would try to talk to him and definitely thank that boy. The hero is helped by the chickens, but he cannot send them to Katsuragi. This is Tatsuki's territory, and no matter how much the girl wants it, the reptile will not allow anyone to interfere in its territory. Maya is very sweet, responsible, and kind. Everyone around adores her. She causes no problems for anyone. It's just a pity that no one sees such an ideal in Katsuragi. The boy fell into sadness and began to think that he did not need love or marriage. Suddenly Akawa wrote to him, thanking him for Friday and saying that they quickly took Rin away from her uncle, although there was no need to thank for that, and besides, Rin was not the only one so strange. It's good that the chickens were nearby. Anyway, he hoped they lived as best as possible. The chickens almost completed all the work assigned to them. He only had to wait for the end of the rainy season. The chickens work, and the weather remains the same. It rained for half a week. Then there were gloomy days, but in the mountains it rained every evening. The climate here differs from that below. The problems began the moment the chickens finished their last shift. The hero went to the village to buy groceries, suddenly remembered that his chickens were working nearby in the field. He had not seen how Pochi and Tama worked for a long time, so he thought and slowed down the car. He saw that the chickens were working, and there were children there too. The hero watches and clearly understands, a little more. And Pochi will hit the child with its tail. Unfortunately, that is what happened. Because of this, the child fell into the water. Some woman screamed. The boy rushed to help and asked about the girl's condition. She said that everything was fine and laughed, and the hero felt relief from her laughter. The woman spoke rudely to the hero, and he apologized for his chickens. She directly asked if he was really the owner of these chickens. Shohei confirmed everything. The stranger asks the boy what he was thinking when he left the care of these huge hens. They know that the chickens are here to exterminate snakes, but because of them, one cannot work in the field. Sano asked them, if possible, not to approach them. She continued shouting that it was precisely because of them that her child fell into the water. Shohei noticed Yuma's angry look and mentally begged her not to start pecking. The boy began to say that it was his fault. He approached Pochi to play, and the other children supported him, saying it was their fault because they did not think about how long Pochi's tail was. The girl hugged Pochi and apologized to him. The woman shouted that this in no way changes the fact that he was dangerous. Shohei Bod sincerely apologized and promised to listen to her words. He himself believed that in such cases any reaction will encounter hostility, so he can only bow his head and resolve this conflict peacefully. Then Yumoto approached and saw how popular Pochi was. The husband of that woman stood nearby, saw that the main hero was bowing to her, and asked what had happened. Looking at them, Shohei immediately understood. This is a young couple, and the girl seems to be explaining something to the boy. The man called his son Makoto and asked him to go wash up. He offered the same to the main hero. Sano called the boy to go with him. While they were washing the dishes, Yamoto and Makoto's parents were arguing heatedly. The boy noticed this and apologized to that boy because everything happened because he just wanted to play with Pochi. Shohei smiled and gently asked him not to approach Pochi while he is working from now on. Here they noticed Pochi. He came to find out how the boy was doing. He came to Makoto, carrying the girl in his arms. He just looked at him, and yet his chickens are good birds. The boys thanked the hero and noticed that his mother is so nervous. The boy agreed with him and said that this is exactly why mothers exist. His chickens are so huge. The boy asked hopefully if they would be sold at the summer festival. He also wants one. Shohei approached the boy's parents. The woman bowed deeply and apologized to the boy. He got nervous and said that he needed to apologize. The man bowed his head and said that their son was to blame. They sincerely regretted it. After all, he was helping them get rid of snakes. Sano said that his chickens were really huge, frighteningly big. The main thing was that their son was unharmed. Umoto addressed the children and said that the chickens were working now. Do not approach them. They are looking for poisonous snakes that need to be destroyed because it is dangerous here. The children understood the old man, but still continued talking with Pochi and Tama. Sano said that Makoto seemed unharmed, but his parents could still monitor his condition. He also asked, "Tell the children not to cling to the chickens. They have very long tails." Everyone started to chatter about whether his chickens were normal at all, but the talk quickly died down, and eventually even that girl smiled. Of course, mothers worry about their children. No matter how much you explain to them, they will still be scared if giant birds appear on their land. Maybe the boy should also attend village meetings. They received an answer from the old man and asked if he could join the village general meetings. He looked seriously at that boy and said he would pass it on to everyone. He should have done it long ago. People in the village treated him so warmly that he completely forgot about the strange antics of his chickens. He really needs to be much more careful. One of the children approached Sano and asked for permission to play with the chickens. Sano replied that it was allowed, but only after they finished their work. He glanced at the chickens, and Yamoto said that the work for today was finished. The children rushed to play with Pochi, Tama, and Yuma. Makoto, having changed clothes, also wanted to play with the chicks. Someone said that it is good to have children, and the hero agreed, adding that children are the flowers of their life that need to be cared for. The boy had no idea that the children liked his chickens so much. You should answer that it is because he rarely came down from the mountain. At first, the children were afraid of the chickens because of their size, but by the next day they became best friends. Yes, and it seems the children themselves became interested in them. Every day they asked where to buy such chickens, but the hero did not suspect. As soon as they returned, they immediately went to patrol the mountains, as if nothing had happened. Yamato said that as soon as the chickens finished their work, the boy could at least once a week let them out to play in the field with the children. They would be happy. Shohei noted that it was a good idea. The children liked the chickens, so they could be let out sometimes. But once a week was too much. Umoto and Shohei sharply turned away from the girl's scream. The chicken was holding a snake in its beak. The old man recognized it as an island snake and said to release it back. The girl admitted that she was terribly scared, and then thanked Yuma. The uncle was surprised that he himself was afraid of the snake. She replied that a snake remains a snake, and snakes are scary. Then she asked Sano what he thought about it. He agreed and added that his chickens catch not only snakes, but also vipers. The children froze in surprise. Vipers were crawling on the mountain. Makoto asked why this young man lived on the mountain, and felt that it was better not to go down to them at all. The boy pondered. Sano only replied that there were reasons for that. When you grow up, you will understand. The hero was not sure he really understood him, but this time the phrase was appropriate. The children are looking for chickens. The hero noticed this. Umoto warned that if things continued like this, they would soon be called to the school. Sano wants his chickens to run freely in the mountains, and for peace to prevail. After some time, the young man called Pochi, Yuma, and Toma home. The children stood upset. Shohei asked the old man if they would return here tomorrow, and he replied no, they would not work anywhere nearby. He shouted to the children that they would come again tomorrow. They agreed and said goodbye to the chickens. Today he looked at the chickens in a completely new way. At home, the hero announced to them that this was their last shift this week, or they want to work later, and have already confirmed it. Uncle said they needed help from other settlements. Then the chickens would have to work more, but the old man would not be able to pay well for it. The boy was already thinking of giving up. He just wasn't sure if his chickens even wanted to work at all. They loudly said that they do not want to and will not work. The boy was surprised. He thought they liked playing with children, but Pochi and Thomas said they loved the mountains and Yuma, Sano. Show that he understood. You must look as if you enjoy being near him. Pochi and Tom try very hard, although they themselves love hiking in the mountains. He asks them if he should stay with them in the mountains. But Pochi and Tom turn away, and the hero feels like he is about to cry. In the morning, the boy visited the old man. They greeted each other warmly. The hero approached the man to talk about work. He explained that the chickens were already tired of her. He replied that the most important thing was that the chickens did not press. He would refuse them. The boy thanked him. The man asked the boy if he was sure he wanted to go to that meeting. He confirmed and asked if any problem would arise because of this. The man himself does not mind his participation, because his chickens caught snakes. But only stubborn old men will come to the meeting. They also do not mind his participation, but he doubts whether they will allow him to speak. He is a stranger to them. What good can they say to him? He warned him, "Get ready, you will not be accepted. And if he cannot, it is better not to go at all." The hero smiled and replied that everything would be fine, adding that he should visit them at least once. Meeting on Saturday evening. It seems they will talk over glasses. He doesn't even know how the chickens will manage without him. He thinks nothing will happen if he leaves them alone for one evening, but still feels a bit anxious. Aikawa suggested leaving them at his place. But the thing is, Tama is unlikely to agree to spend a whole year in the company of snakes. They would start fighting, so he declined the offer. Last time he stayed overnight among the chickens, so lodging was not a problem. He told the hens that on Saturday he needed to talk to his uncle. Most likely he would spend the night at his place, and asked if they wanted to stay on the mountain or go to the uncle. The chickens looked at each other. Thomas said she wanted to stay on the mountain, but Yuma and Pochi wanted to go together. The boy sincerely thanked them. No wonder. Thomas wanted to stay on the mountain, and Pochi and Yuma wanted to go with him. He told his uncle that he would go with them, and the uncle replied that it would be even better in the future. Thus ended the Friday night.